All right, we call this meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors to order for Monday, April 7th. And we would entertain a motion to acknowledge the minutes of March 31st, 2025.
I read through them and so moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It's passed. Dwayne,
Good morning, supervisors. They did manage to get the beams set over on Libertyville Road Bridge last week, so we were kind of doubtful that they would get it done with the rain that we had, making it kind of slippery because they had to get back the semi down in to the creek bottom so that they could get a crane in there to lift those beams up and set them. So we're very happy that Mother Nature cooperated enough that they could get that done, and the project is moving forward. And no, I don't know for sure when it's going to be open late. But by contract, it doesn't need to be open till, they won't run out of days till October.
I only asked because of Josh.
I know,
Yeah,
but we
sure.
hope it will be open so the ambulance can service that part of the county more efficiently in midsummer. How's that?
Perfect.
For as dry as the spring is, we're having a lot of issues with the roads and spots. We have Pelling under contract for the chip seal project for this summer through FM funds. And I think I discussed with you that we're looking at having them do the rehab patching on 146th, where the 24 spots where the road went to heck because
That's Germanville.
Germanville,
Yeah, I was
Merrimack.
there last week. It is a mess.
Yeah, that first mile or so is pretty bad.
What's the reasoning for that?
It's heavy traffic, and we didn't, at the time when we were doing it, we've been running, the previous year we put 3 or 4 inches of additional stone on it. And we were watching it that spring and it looked like it was holding up fairly well, so we felt comfortable chip sealing it without doing the stabilization that we did on Nutmeg. And cost wise, I think we'd have had $700,000 or $800,000 into stabilizing it. And that seemed like a lot of money for no worse than that road was. And I still think that was the way to go, because we just figured we would have to repair anything that did go to heck. And there's some spots and we're gonna have more than I want, but a lot less than we would have doing the whole thing, because there's probably 90% of that road still is holding up just fine. But we're gonna add that to Pelling's contract, so we'll pay for that maintenance out of farm to market funds. Then we're also looking at 4th Street, which is Ash in Batavia. There's a chunk of road that's been on our radar for a couple of years that we're going to have to bite the bullet and add that to the Pelling contract to patch and redo right from the phone company, Old 34 South, about a half a block. Then there's a couple other spots that while we're in the area, we'll take care of that. And then probably add H43 west of Libertyville on that also, as that's getting a lot of transverse cracking that is in bad shape. And I don't see any reason not to add that to the contract as well for the farm to market funds. We need to do it eventually, and I want to get on those joints before they become an issue.
That street in Batavia, is city gonna be responsible for any
So
part of that?
it's a farm to market.
So we take care of all of it?
Yeah, well, yeah,
So,
farm to market
okay.
funds can handle that.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. What's this? Is this? We're probably pushing, we're not quite there yet, but we're probably pushing 10 years since we You did that, really.
Again, it's held up well. It's just that spot right at the corner, you know, where. And I think it started, you know, when trucks run around that corner, then they accelerate. That's where you kind of get your main stress on the pavement. And they're moving slow and they're accelerating. It provides, you know, the weight load plus the torque from their tires. And it just makes it's harder on the pavement. And it may have been soft to start with there. Those ditches, you know, you may not remember, we redid that ditch on the east side my first year here in 21, because that was just kind of a swamp and cattails, and you know, that kind of topography where you allow the moisture just to sit there and soak in is, and it was a fairly shallow ditch. It's hard on the pavements because it undermines the road. So I think we've got that end of it stabilized, so. And let's see, we've got a couple pipe on Pleasant Plain Road that the CMP's corrugated metal pipe are rotted out. We're gonna push plastic pipe through them to act as liners. And then we've got a box culvert on 110 west of Pleasant Plain, between Okra and Osage. Oak and Osage, that the bottom's rotted out of, so we're going to investigate that this morning and see what the best way to handle that is. But I want to get that done before Pelling comes in to do their chip seal on that road.
When you put them liners in, does that cut down on capacity of water?
A little bit, yeah, as you take, say, a 24-inch pipe and make it a 20-inch, so you lose some.
But it's not, I mean, it's not that significant
No.
then. Are they smooth liners then, or are they?
Yeah.
Well, that smooth liner should let it flow faster too than
It had
corrugated.
yeah,
So they say,
a little bit, but it doesn't make up for the smaller diameter.
okay,
But, you know, most of those, if we were in an urban area where we were gonna back it up into somebody's basement, that'd be different than if you just hold the ditch a little longer.
good enough.
I think that's all I got for now.
Any questions for Dwayne?
I already asked mine.
Okay, then we'll move on. Number 2, and talk to Dwayne again, discuss and consider Jefferson County budget and CFYP per IDOT submission.
And the budget that we submit to the IDOT combines a lot of our county budget categories, and we pretty much just mirrored what we've been submitting to you guys for budget. The DOT, the way they do their paperwork, they want the budget from you before you've actually approved it. So, you know, this is our best guess of what you guys are going to approve at this time, and I guess if it changes, we can submit an amendment later on in the year to the DOT. Then the 5-year plan, I guess if you want to do them one at a time, or but the 5-year plan is the paper that I submitted to you here a few weeks ago for you guys to look at. It's got our chip seal maintenance programs. It's the Libertyville Road rehabilitation that goes out for bid in December. And some of the bridges that we're looking at doing is Grass Tree over south of Libertyville. There's a chunk of road or a farmstead that's bordered by a 10-ton bridge and a 12-ton culvert. So it would be beneficial if we could get at least one way to get a legal access load into that farm. And then we're looking at doing a rehab up on Buckeye in the north of Abingdon. There's a bridge that's has a head wall that's collapsed. It's still, it's settled, I guess, that collapsed, it's settled. But, and we've got it posted right now, but we need to get that fixed before it becomes a worse problem. We're looking at doing a, what they call a bent pier. It's where they put a reinforcement pier right adjacent to the abutment to hold it, to provide additional support at each end, carry some of the load that the abutments aren't capable of handling.
Is that something county crew can do, or you have?
No, you
I think
need.
I asked that before.
The last time we did it, we put it out for bids. We got quotes from both Iowa Bridge and Herberger. And at that time, it was in the $70,000 to $100,000 range, which is a lot less expensive than replacing the bridge. And we had soil borings done, and it will work with the soils that are up there. We're gonna do the same thing on 117 instead of doing twin tank cars on that. Again, for the same reason, the price of the tank cars anymore are getting to be cost prohibitive.
That's a sad commentary. It used to be,
Yeah.
used to be able to save a lot of money because we could do it in-house.
Well, if we want to spend $100,000 for an attachment to our excavator so we can drive pile with it, we could do a lot of that in-house, but.
Well, let me ask you a question now that, since you brought that up. Can you do a cost benefit analysis so we can see,
Yeah, we can take a look at that.
you know, because we can do a lot of work in-house, it. The benefit on that may outweigh the cost.
Yeah, that's it. First thing I have to check is make sure that the hydraulics on the excavator have enough horsepower to run that piece of equipment, that attachment.
They used to have an old piece that drove piles, an old crane.
Yeah, and they sold that. They also got rid of their distributor tank and all their scrapers. So there's a lot of stuff that county used to be able to do that we can't now. Yeah, and hindsight's always 20/20. There's always, why are you keeping that old thing? We never use it, and then you get rid of it.
Then you need it.
Every time I do that, I do.
Guess that's why I still got put away.
Maybe that's why she still has you.
So yeah, at least I would like to see, I'd say cost benefit analysis. Because I think the more we can, potentially maybe the more we can do in-house,
Mhm.
in the long run, we'll be dollars ahead, maybe. Especially when it comes to bridges and stuff.
And I think that is going to be more prevalent in the future. And the other thing is with the tank cars, we've pretty well exhausted all the waterways in the county that those work for. They're a great tool when you have a smaller stream. Well, we've done pretty much all the small stream crossings, so you're stuck with the ones that are just a bit too big for that. And
So that double one at west of my place, is that kind of overkill?
no,
It's not?
usually it barely makes it for yours.
Oh,
But we were gonna make that a low water stream crossing, remember?
I don't care.
That's.
I don't farm anymore.
Yeah.
I needed it 10, 15 years ago.
No, honestly, we are going to investigate taking one of those pipe over to, Ginkgo.
Down, I'm gonna chain them down.
But yeah,
You'll have the neighbor talking if you take one of them.
yeah, but. Well, if we do that, we would concrete across the top and we would make that low water stream crossing, because it would overtop the 50-year rain event.
You are serious about that?
Yes. Yeah, because Ginkgo which it doesn't look like it, but that has the hydraulics, that has more water run through it in a heavy storm than 165th does.
You can wink at me all you want. You don't have to know.
He's the engineer.
That's right.
He's the one who'll shoot later if it doesn't work.
Talk about the cost benefit analysis.
Yeah.
So I would entertain a motion to approve the budget and the CFYP for IDOT submission.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Number 3, discuss and consider noxious weed notice. How many of these do you need?
Oh, just actually, when Christie signs it, she can just email it over to me, that's fine.
Ah. So I will read this notice. Be it resolved by the Board of Supervisors of Jefferson County pursuant to the provision of Chapter 317, 2024 Code of Iowa, it is hereby ordered that each owner and each person in possession or control of any land in Jefferson County shall cut, burn, or otherwise destroy all noxious weeds thereon, as defined in this chapter, at such times in each year and in such manner as shall be prescribed by the Board of Supervisors. Each owner and each person in possession or control of any lands in Jefferson County shall also and shall keep said lands free from such growth of any other weeds as shall render the streets and highways adjoining said lands unsafe for public travel. Noxious weeds shall be cut or otherwise destroyed on or before the following date as often as it is necessary to prevent seed production. May 15th, 2024, for immediate eradication of Palmer amaranth, for control of leafy spurge, Canada thistle, bull thistle, teasel, multiflora rose, field bindweed, all other species of thistles belonging to the genus of Cardus and waterhemp. That each owner and each person in possession or control of any lands in Jefferson County infested with noxious weeds, including the immediate eradication of Palmer amaranth and control of leafy spurge, Canada thistle, bull thistle, teasel, multiflora rose, field bindweed, and all other species of thistle belonging to the genus Cardus and waterhemp, shall adopt a program of weed destruction described by the weed commissioner, which in 5 years may be expected to destroy and will immediately keep under control such infestation of said noxious weeds. That if the owners or persons in possession or control of any land in Jefferson County fail to comply with the foregoing orders, the weed commissioner shall cause this to be done, and the expense of said work, including costs of serving notice and other costs, if any, to be assessed against the land and the owners thereof. That the county auditor be and he is hereby directed to cause notice of the making and entering of the foregoing order by one publication in the official newspaper of the county. Any discussion?
Do you have somebody certified now for weeds? Chemicals?
So we've got 3 guys.
Good enough.
Entertain a motion to approve.
Still move.
Second, maybe 4. Oh, 3, maybe 4 guys. I don't remember off the top of my head, but
So any one of them can go out at any time then.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the noxious weed notice. Any further discussion?
Yeah.
Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Yeah, probably should say 25. I don't think we have to do this again, do we, Elizabeth?
Pardon?
Well,
Just one correction.
on the resolution, it states May 15th, 2024 for immediate eradication. We need to change that probably to 25.
Yeah,
We don't need to put it back on the agenda.
no. I'll be signing up, getting one.
Before we do the next one, let's drop down one, because I think that'll be a little bit quicker, maybe. Discuss and consider redust proofing detour route on Indigo. So I had a conversation with a gentleman that evidently lives on Indigo, and he says, I didn't even realize it until after he said it, and I came back from Dowds, I checked, and there is a detour sign there.
Mhm.
He said it's really crazy dusty on that road, so I just told him I'd bring it to your attention.
Yeah, we intended to dust control just as we did last fall before they started. Usually we wait until the nighttime temperatures are above freezing so that we can, granted, the brine's not supposed to freeze, but
Yeah,
you don't want to take a risk of having a pump blow up on you. So we don't have any on hand now, but when we get it, we'll do that. And then while we're on that subject, we've got 1/10 in birch that we always do. That we've started doing since we chip sealed Brookville Road for dust control for the school traffic. Just kind of wanted to make sure it was your intent that we continue to do that until we do something with those roads with the grant funds.
yeah, I think it's, especially 110th there, well, part of it too, it is a safety issue during school. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's fine with me too, for safety.
Something else I should have mentioned earlier is we went through our records and we do not have any 2080 agreements with the city of Fairfield for any of the shared maintenance routes. We've just been somewhat horse trading over the years, and I think we're getting the short end of the horse trade anymore. So we're going to go through the routes and what each party has been doing and see if we can work up a formal agreement. Just to make sure that it is fair and equitable.
She was writing it down, so she's on top of it. Whatever needs to be
Writing it
done.
down.
And then we've still got the ordinance to. We've met a time or so on the road ordinance and. We need to kind of step up our activity on that to get that finalized.
Yeah.
So I know you don't have much on your plate. So.
No problem. We wanted to meet anyway about that other issue, so. it's good.
So we'll jump back up to discuss and consider utilities use of county right of way, and Joe, I'm gonna turn that over to you since you made the discussions or whatever.
We have Trent Gregory and Todd, I'm sorry, I don't know the last name. Newcomb here with us today from Bloomfield Citizens Television.
Citizens Mutual.
Would one of you like to step up here and explain things?
Yeah.
We've been in conversation, so I brought it up to the board here.
Yeah, that's according to you.
So, yeah, just wanted to have a conversation and see if we could reevaluate the expectations of where we put our cable in the public right of way. Been working with Dwayne, been doing a great job, very responsive, good guy to work with.
How much did he get paid?
But I would like to just take a moment and explain that we are a co-op. We're not a private company. So any profits that we make, all of our members that have our service are owners of the company. Any profits that we make gets returned back to these owners. So we're not out here making a lot of money by no means. And with that being said, we're trying to do this as efficiently as we can to keep our costs down, keep the rates down for the customers. So the expectations has been for us to be on the back of the right of way wherever possible. If we can safely put the cable back there. if the terrain doesn't allow it, then Dwayne, excuse me, has allowed us to plow up in the road and put the cable kind of on the edge of the road, but up on the road bed. And that's the way down in Davis County, we've always done it. It was up on the road, and as far as I know, it's worked out very well. When we do put it in the road, anytime we come to a crossroad culvert or any bridge or anything like that, it all gets directional bored underneath the tube at a minimum 6 feet underneath the tube. That way, if you got to replace the tube, we're out of the way. They don't have to worry about it. So on. One of the issues we have is when we're in the back of the right of way, we're more likely to be in the way of the landowners for field tiles, any private utilities that they have, which I think was the case just the other day, didn't?
Just this morning, Gene Parker. We plowed through a private, electrical service. He's got farms on both sides of the road and he didn't have electric service on, well, the south side of the road over the weekend because we plowed through it on Friday.
So things like that, when we do our one call, those things don't show up to get located because it's private. Only the public utilities are registered on the one call site, so they're the ones that get notified that we're doing the excavation. Things like this happens. The field tile, I know in Jefferson County, I've seen more field tile than any other of the 6 counties we're in. And a lot of times they will even run that tile across the road to the other side, I think, and carry it on, which was all new to me too. But you know, that can be an issue sometimes because we're not going to know where those are at or see them. Or if they're just stubbing it out into the ditch, obviously if we're in the back of the right of way, then there's going to be a conflict there. And when they go to put new tile in, there's more of a chance of us getting cut. And then that means every resident that has service that's fed through that line can be out of service till we get it fixed. So anyway, long story short, I would like to have it considered that being up in the road would be our main place to be and not have that expense and more liability being back there right away. And the jumping back and forth, we don't do it a lot. I mean, you laid out one area that would like it in the back right away here. And once you get to this point, you can be in the road because of terrain. But the jumping back and forth, that just puts us into more risk for ditch cleaning or things like that, I guess. Where if we stayed in one place, you don't have that crossing that ditch. And then if anything happens, you know, where you need to do some road work, major road move or anything like that, I think it's even in the permit that's on us to move it and be out of the way. So just looking for some discussion to see if we might rethink that.
Well, from our end of it, if we allow you in the road, we have to allow everybody in the road. And none of our other contractors installing cable in the road have had an issue with it. And if they do have terrain that won't allow it, allow them to be in the ditch, we allow them up on the road just as we did with yours. I went and drove the route and I understand west of Dewberry where the ditches are steep, there is no ditch bottom and it wouldn't be safe to have a plow vehicle on there. But a lot of the rest of that, you could be in the back slope of the ditch. You don't have to be up in the field, but from the toe of the ditch back up, you know, where the ditches aren't, you know, a 1-to-1 slope. We just prefer you to not be in the edge of the road so that if we bring the road in, you guys don't have to relocate a mile of road of cable and, you know, and that's our main thing.
Sure.
We want you more or less out of the way, so, because if we're doing ditch work, it's gonna be from the ditch bottom towards the road, and a lot of those roads, especially in the western part of the county, are wide enough that we need to be bringing them in. So if you're in the edge, we're gonna get into you. And we want to avoid that, so we don't have a long lead time in advance. And that's, you know, I thought I was being reasonable when I went and drove it, and, you know, instead of saying, no, this is what I said, this is where you must be.
No, and I get that, and this project's already started, and we're probably halfway through the part that we gotta, in the back of the right of way, correct?
Well, like this morning, we're at Elderberry
Mhm.
and Fur. And the ditches have 2 foot of standing water in them. So. And this is a time thing. We gotta have this project done in a certain time frame. So we can't,
Can't shut down and wait for things to dry out.
and wait for it to dry out. I mean, we gotta go.
I mean, we will if we have to, obviously. I mean, it's your call. We don't want to tear up your road ditches either, and make a mess of things. If we were up in the road where we had always worked good for us was to be just on the outside of the outside track. Typically that leaves some road over here for pulling up, plus we're 42 inches deep. It would take something pretty major to get down to us that deep and not right on the edge. And another big thing for us is consistency. Having the cable all either in the road, obviously you can't have it all in the back of the road. That way we know, and everybody else kind of knows where we're at too, rather than jumping back and forth. Just another thing that we consider, you know, having something that's consistent all the time. So, like I say, we've been in the road. See, we're in 6 different counties now. And this isn't the first county we've had this discussion with. But I think every other county, everything has been okay for us to be up in the road. And I think we've proven that our technique of doing it and our contractors are all phenomenal for cleaning up. If there is an issue, whether there's some gravel or something that needs replaced, it happens. I don't think they're tearing up the roads. I think they'll actually have a lot less destruction up there than you will if we're in the back of it right away. That's the way we see it anyway. I know we're looking at this from 2 different angles. I get that. But we're a company that we're gonna be part of you guys' community. We're here to stay. We're here to take care of things. I mean, we've been down in Davis County since 1904, I guess, is when they first started. So we're entrenched. We're gonna be here. We're gonna be neighbors. We're gonna take care of things if there's an issue.
I can see where the water in the ditch would be a big issue to get through. You have to, when you leave the roadway to go to the back, you have to backhoe across there, or are you able to go down with the plow and go?
It depends on the terrain and the weather. I think if possible, they would rather not backhoe, because that's just that much more that needs to be repaired. I'd rather just make that narrow knife slot and go. Obviously, the pedestals are all at the back of the right of way, so the cable's back there anyway. And if they were in the road to get back there, then they do use the backhoe to dig a trench in the road back there, and then repair all that.
So in this particular instance, how many miles are we talking about?
This project is
19.
miles, 19 miles of roadway, yeah. And
All of it in Jefferson County, or?
Pardon?
All of it in Jefferson?
It's just this section of it. This year, we're doing over 400 miles in 6 counties. Yeah. This is our last big construction year that we have to do that we know of right now. This is all, I don't want to say it's all, but what's brought it on is the broadband grant money that's been available. And so with us applying for that and getting it, then once we apply for that area, then we are obligated to build that area.
And this area is actually farmers of Batavia. We actually take care of their,
Yeah, it's their project.
Yeah.
We just manage the project for them. Yeah. So. More than likely, this will be, I would guess we've about got them all built out
Yeah.
that way.
there may be an extension here or there later on, but this is the last big project. Yeah. And up till this point, we have been in the road every project we've done. So that's what he was saying about, it'd be nice to just continue as we were. It's the safest place for the people is in the road.
Well, you're what, that far off of the edge anyway, maybe down 42 inches, by the time you go to ditching, you're probably not going to get into that, are you?
I'd hope not, but there's spots where we would be, you know, and that's the issue and no other companies other than the occasional spot where the ditches, again, the terrain makes it unsafe to do it. No other contractors had an issue with doing it in the ditches. Yeah, and
I don't know what their finances look like, but it does add to our bottom line, I know, and we're pretty tight on our budgets, but that's neither here nor there.
well, I can take my road superintendent, and go drive your route again and reevaluate it. But I'm against having them, you know, that's, I don't like having anything underneath the road. Just as a matter of principle because of needing to work around it if, you know, if something comes up. But we'll take a look at it.
I think it's good for everybody except you, obviously. I mean, it's good for.
You sound like my wife.
Your
now.
residents, I mean, it keeps our costs down if we get so much more done in a day. Yeah,
Yeah, I understand. I came from the construction world.
okay,
so-
yeah.
So generally, I think it's appropriate to defer to the engineer, but I would ask if something was to develop between the two of you, that potentially there could be some agreement in writing that indemnifies us. He ultimately says, yeah, okay, go ahead and put it in the road.
I think that's already in the permit
That's
application.
in the permit.
Okay. That, yeah, anytime that our cable's in the way of the road construction, it's up to us at our expense to move it, to relocate it.
Well, I was thinking more in terms of if we were doing something to the road and we cut it or whatever the case may be, it would be incumbent upon you guys at your expense to come and repair it, that sort of thing. That's what I was thinking in terms of.
And it's kind of been an unwritten rule with us anyway, with all of our other counties. I don't know that we've ever charged a county to repair a cable. And they have cut us for different reasons. But it's been an unwritten rule, I'll put it that way,
Yeah.
that we haven't ever charged the county to fix a cable that they go into. I mean, they mow off pedestals with their brush cutters and it can make a mess sometimes, but it's part of it.
Well, and I'm just speaking for me, I'm not speaking for the other two, but I can see both sides of the equation without question, but I would prefer to defer to you in this, and if you go out, you and Jess, and you say, yeah, this isn't a problem, whether it's 19 miles in the county or whatever, and you tell them to go for it, I'm okay with that.
Well,
I don't know that we want to establish, again, speaking for me, I don't think I want to establish protocol or a. Cause I think
Policy or something.
yeah, cause I think each situation would be different and, potentially. And I get where you're coming from. If we say, okay, yeah, you can do this as a matter of, or we do utilities as a matter of, then we got somebody coming down the middle of the road wanting to put in a a 14-inch pipe or something. I mean, I know that's a little bit overkill, but my point is that we could open a can of worms, Pandora's box, and who knows what we would end up getting. So I for one would defer to it. But if by the same token, if you determine that it's not an issue to do those 19 miles, I don't have a problem with it because you're the one that's making the
It's
call.
my responsibility.
That's right.
As
That's
a
fine.
landowner, I'd love to see it along the edge of the road because a couple years ago, I found a 10-inch water main that I didn't know where it was.
Well, you found out, didn't you?
I found out where it was, yes. But there again, I'm gonna,
But that water main should have been 5 feet below ground.
it was this far below the creek bottom.
Where's the creek bottom was 12 feet below. That's all right.
Yeah. When it was put in, it was 3 or 4 feet below, but they say the creek's washed out,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
It was my fault, but no, I'm gonna go along with letting Dwayne make the decision on that, so we don't open a big mess on things. So I know
That
you
is-
guys work things out and I'll go along with however you do it and stuff. So,
Okay,
And if you feel the need for there to be something more in writing, we can do that too.
so I know we
You
have
don't
to trust,
anything else.
we have to trust
Write it
Dwayne's
down.
decision.
Oh, that's scary.
He's got broad shoulders, we can't always stand on him.
well, I do appreciate your time.
Well, and I appreciate the fact that you're in the county
Yeah,
and.
Yes, I am thrilled that you are because it's a problem out there.
it's pretty satisfying to get service to people that haven't had it for a long time. Haven't had good service, good broadband service, so, yeah.
And again, if he, there's no need, as far as I'm concerned, to come back to us if you make a determination that. Like, we're okay with that.
All right.
I am, anyway.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're both adults, you'll get it figured out, so.
Well, now we're really stretching the liability envelope, but that's okay.
Shoulders and adult.
Thank you, guys.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
for
your
your
time.
Are you still awake, Josh?
Barely.
Okay.
Just a minute, do you want to jump down to this other one with Dwayne
With the rain,
on the water backup issue?
I thought that was,
Well, we need to talk about it in the meeting.
okay. Go ahead.
West of Libertyville, we've had an issue with a sewer and water backing up in a ditch, and last week, I got a phone call, and so I been out there and worked with the guy and kind of got things resolved, and he got a little backhoe in and he's cut a small ditch, but it needs ditch, so I want you to be sure and put it on the list for this summer to take care of it. But currently the water's flowing through the culvert, doing a good job, and he's about 2 inches, water line's 2 inches below his outlet.
Wow,
So-
that is the issue, is his outlet's lower than the
Yeah.
field tile that comes in, so
Yes.
when you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but his issue or his claim is that he was getting sediment back in his
Yeah.
discharge pipe.
Yes.
And with it being lower than the field tile, when you have a large rain event, that area is going, it's always going to flow back into that.
Yes.
You know, and we can ditch it. But it's a flat area and that will always be an issue with that because of where the way they installed it.
Yes.
And I gave you guys copies of the permit that they filed in 2020.
I looked at all of that.
And you
yes.
can look at the map where the tile was supposed to outfall and where it actually is are 2 different locations. He was supposed to be a little further away from the crossroad culvert.
I see that.
And the other issue, I've got printed out some pictures from Google Earth that shows it in 2020 prior to construction. And that ditch across the street was full of cattails then. So it was that way when they installed the pipe. It's not
So
something
then,
that
so
happened
then water was standing in the culvert crossing the road then, it should be.
unless it was a dry year.
Okay. Well, I've been out there. I was there last evening again. I'd a lot rather see, if it was mine, I'd dump it there too, instead of up the way and have it dribbling down through.
Yeah, but.
As of last evening, he is happy with everything. He doesn't want to proceed. They're gonna flush the line this morning so they can get a clean sample and stuff, satisfy Jerry.
Good luck to them on that. So
So,
hopefully it works out. But
so,
yeah, as I was out there with the shovel, trying to make it better a couple weeks ago because the guys were all busy and I had some spare time, so I went out there and spent a couple hours.
it's doing good right now, so. All right, thank you, Dwayne.
Certainly.
If it's all right, I'd like to add a couple things. First of all, again, Dwayne made a good point there is that when that outlet happened there, somehow it got pushed down into the lower part of the ditch that for some reason probably shouldn't have been done. We don't know when these tiles got put in, but the one that's right beside it is a little bit higher in elevation. That tile looks like it comes off the property building site. The other two tiles just north of that are coming out of the field. So, again, not knowing when the tile from the property side came in there, that could have been part of this issue here, where that tile was added in after the septic drain was added in. But, if, again, like we talked about before, all this, they get it flushed, they get it retested, and it passes the effluent test, that, we should be good to go at the time of transfer with it. So I just wanted to add that in and thank all you guys for being out there. We've had 4 different people out there on the site. I went out on the site. It wasn't backing up at the time. Dwayne was out on the site a couple times. The inspector was out on the site. Joe, you said you were just out there on the site. I don't assume there's water backing up in it.
Nope, I was there I've been there twice this week.
All right,
So
so
I've
the
been there
water.
previous, I've been there with Dwayne, so I've made a few trips out.
So I
Keep him
appreciate it.
happy.
Okay. Again, this might be a self-inflicted thing that we're dealing with here. Let's just go forwards with, I think, like I said, let them get the pipe jetted. Let them get that retest and see if we can move it forwards.
Anything else on that?
Nope, I think it's taken care of.
All right. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Both of you
Dwayne.
working on that. Number 4, discuss and consider resolution approving transfer of ownership of the Mazdam Barnes property to the Jefferson County Conservation Board and incorporating the memorandum of understanding between the parties.
We'll go back to Josh anyway.
Huh?
Didn't want to talk to Josh anyway, did you?
Oh, sorry, Josh. My bad.
It's fine. Things are going smooth.
Thanks for coming. Anyway, moving on. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I don't really have a lot, so it's fine.
I see how you are.
Right. For March, we had 152 calls, 157 patient contacts, and 34 transfers from Jefferson County. Billing still just hurts my brain. For March so far, and again, just coming out of March, I don't expect this number to be incredibly high, but we billed out 180,708, and so far we've gotten back 67,432, so like 37%. And then looking at February, it hurts even more. We billed out 194,425, and we've gotten 43,334, 22% of what we build out. So I'm going to dive in today and really figure out what the hell's going on, because it just doesn't make sense to me why we're so low.
Do they even talk to you about it?
Well, I think I actually meet with Cheyenne this week, so in preparation for that.
See,
Gonna have a lot of
I
questions.
personally am convinced, and it was, I believe, the right thing to do in the beginning. Because we didn't know what we were gonna look like, and we needed the revenue, if you will, but as you're well aware, we do a flat rate,
Mhm.
$22 per call.
Yeah,
So I don't think there's any incentive to pursue anything.
right.
Because they just get, whereas if it was on a percentage basis. And I'm not saying they're not doing everything, I'm just simply saying that if there was a possibility that they could collect more money,
Mhm.
but they get $22 instead of 6%
Yeah,
or whatever it is.
yeah,
So, and I think that the sooner we can get our folks are already trained, but the sooner we can get them, and yourself included, to meet with Washington and so that we can absolutely hit the ground running.
yeah, that's, our intent is October 1st, we're taking it over, so, and that's the end of our contract with them.
Finally, another question I have, Elizabeth, is what happens if we do some test billing ourselves so that we are actually ready to hit? Are
I,
we absolutely obligated to send everything to the billing company?
I haven't reviewed our contract, but I would imagine,
I don't think we can do that.
yeah, I would imagine.
I'm pretty sure, and I mean, it's been a minute since I looked at it, so
Okay.
I've
Well,
forgotten
I-
half of it, but I'm pretty sure it's very explicitly written that we are not allowed to do any internal billing.
Well, I would really be curious, a like kind and quality call. Okay,
Yeah.
I really would be curious. First off, what are they billing? I don't know how the code, but we'll say, just for sake of argument, that they bill $1,300 and we bill $1,300. And they get 1,000 and we get 300.
Yeah.
What is it that they're saying that, and I realize it's just hypothetical, but I'm just saying, I'm curious as to what it is, if we compare what we're sending to the building company for the same basic like kind of quality call, how much are they getting out of that call versus what we're getting, and see if we can determine
Yeah.
why that is. Or what are they doing? And then maybe saying to Cheyenne, hey, we're losing $500 a call here. Well, why is that?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've already started working on, we've got a spreadsheet going with all the billing information for every call. So that's where I'm gonna dive in a little bit more and figure out the patterns within that return and figure out what's going on there. So we've already started the process. It's just,
Does Medicaid and of course I realize each circumstances can be somewhat different, but we know what we're going to get when we do a transfer out of the hospital on a Medicaid patient, right? There's just a flat, based on whether it's ALS or BLS.
right,
So that's not really gonna fluctuate all that much.
not really, no.
Okay, so the only things then would be those externals before you get them as a transfer. As far as that part goes, I suppose basically it's the same with Medicare. I don't know, it just,
So Medicare is a little different because we can bill the difference to the patient directly. Medicaid, we can't.
well, if they have a supplement though, doesn't, like I
The
have a
supplement
supplement,
should
yeah,
cover
then
it.
I don't pay
Right.
anything. Well, I do, like $380 a month
But
for the
yeah.
privilege, but.
Yeah,
So-
and then, yeah, the self-pays and all those other issues, so. But yeah, I'm gonna look into that a little bit more.
And I suppose Medicare Advantage is real.
I don't know why they call it Advantage. That just seems like a. There is not advantageous whatsoever.
So I've got another question to get straight. The billing company charged $22 for every call, regardless if it's collected or not. So they have no incentive to get it collected.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep,
that's
and that was, I mean, yeah, we've talked
the
about
way I
that.
understood it.
Yep.
Yes.
And I mean, and they, regardless of if it's a patient refusal, if it's a fire standby, if it's a whatever, they charge us $22 to look at it and say, okay, we can't bill that. So, and that in itself is
But
gonna,
I do think according to the contract that they're supposed to do collections.
they are. So, well, they'll send out 3 notifications of past due And then at that point, it goes to collections. And then who knows after that, but
Right.
yeah. Yep. So yeah, I'm gonna look into that.
Was it dumps?
Staffing, we did bring on Alex. He started full time, so he's gonna get his paperwork in for that as well. Which leaves one full-time paramedic slot open, basically weekends. Friday, Saturday, I think, for paramedic. So we're still working on getting that, but we are pretty good on staffing right now. Per our conversation last week, we did get an agreement with Agriland for fuel. So we're getting that started up here.
Do they take the federal tax off?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Yep.
That's 30 some cents a gallon.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then our credit card limit did get increased. We got that finalized, I think, just last week. So with that, I'll be purchasing the workshop and the flights and everything for the accreditation piece on the education side. So
So now does Agriland give you a card? Or how does it, because the pumps are available 24 hours, but obviously, are they gonna somehow or another monitor the gallons, or how do we do that?
I'm not certain on that. I just got the stuff back on Friday.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go over and really get the details and
Okay,
figure out what we need to do there. So I still got a little bit of work to do on
Can I
that.
interject on that?
Absolutely.
I have a fuel card to FS. It's a regular fuel card. I automatically get 4 cents off.
Okay.
But they also have off-road fuel there with no tax. Is there a reason you can't burn the off-road instead of getting the tax back? Or what? You have a conversation with them
Yeah,
about that.
I don't think the off-road fuel is gonna work for us.
Okay. Okay. You're shaking your head no. It's just a,
That's why they died.
That's not the case.
Don't get hasty.
well,
If you're driving
but if they're
through
getting
Joe's
the
field,
road
you're
tax
off
off, what makes the difference?
It really doesn't, but
Okay.
that's how they diagnose it. We're construction guys, I can tell you for a fact, it might have been done once, but.
Yeah.
It'll burn, but they're.
It doesn't go well.
No,
Okay.
if you go to resell your vehicle, that dye supposedly stays in them and you can.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's like Kool-Aid, stays
Yeah.
forever.
Supposedly.
Yeah, okay. All right, just thoughts on that, but they issue little cards for the pumps and stuff. And that's probably what they'll do is give you probably one for each vehicle.
Probably, yeah.
What I'm
Yeah,
guessing.
I've got to go over there.
Then you got a PIN number with it too and stuff. So, thank you for
Yeah.
checking on that.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
All right.
guys seem busy this last week.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a rough weekend for him.
Now, you just said they had a good weekend. Now you're. saying-
had a great weekend. I wasn't here.
I was referring to the.
They were busy.
Oh,
Okay,
We'll see you guys. Thank you.
all right,
Yeah.
thanks, John.
back to discuss and consider resolution approving the transfer of the Mazda Barnes property to county conservation. Hi, Sean.
Morning.
Anything you'd like to add to this?
No, I'm just here. If there was any concerns.
Your board seen it?
Yeah, they signed off on it and I think are happy to be helping with the
I'm happy to.
ongoing operation of that. I guess we'll call it a park now, but that location.
Well, I would make a motion to approve the resolution and transfer of the ownership. And just for clarification to the folks that are here or that are listening, this is due in part because of some economic development that's going to take place out behind the hospital, which is going to require the grounds that the barn set on to be annexed into the city. And we wanted to make sure that we maintain jurisdiction over the barns as far as preservation and operation and protection of the barns. And Sean and the County Conservation Board stepped up and said, hey, we can do it this way. And so we'll still have the governance board or the preservation board that Susie sits on, all of that. It'll basically, it'll be a seamless transition. The public really won't see anything different. we'll proceed as we proceeded and, Leon will continue to maintain the barns and the grounds and so on and so forth, so.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, discuss and consider. Let's see,
Thanks, Sean.
so we're discussing, consider 1 year prohibition, policy on races in the handbook. Disregard the one name, second from the top, if you want to review. So. That's why I said disregard the
Huh,
second name.
I'll
from
be
the top.
darned.
So it's just a matter of, I think at some point, we probably would sit down with Elizabeth and, if the board is so inclined to review that policy, the question is, do we want to, technical term right now, waive the policy for the pay increases beginning July 1st,
How long's that been in effect, the current policy?
2019? I believe. I can check real quick if you give me a second.
Oh, you already seen that.
Yeah, I have a problem.
I do. I thought. Sorry.
I apologize. 23.
So last year at the same time, folks, if they didn't have their year and they didn't get their raise, right?
We didn't get one. So,
All that, right? So it's
yeah,
null and void.
yeah.
Okay.
But yes, if there had been, you're right. And some of these, as you look at the dates, are kind of up against it. When I mean up against it, I mean, they're right at the 12-month mark.
Yeah.
Others are not quite so much.
So are you thinking we should negate the 12-month mark and make it 6 months?
Well, I think that we certainly can look at the handbook and change the policy. I'm not sure that we could just unilaterally go, okay, we're gonna make it from 12 to 6 today. Well, we can waive it, can't we?
Yeah, I suppose you could, if you wanted to. Are you waiving it for everybody who's been, do you have a
I
specific
I
time
think we would,
period in mind?
well, I guess that's the question, because you said 6 months.
Okay.
So I don't know if we can do it that way, if that's, if that's an option, then that's certainly something that we can discuss. Otherwise, I guess I thought it would have to be a blanket waive, that it's gone for, and then we
Yeah.
revisit the policy and say,
If you're gonna waive it, I would say make it more of a blanket waiver and
and then and I agree with Susie that, to revisit it and see. Because the one thing, we've discussed this, we have some varying degrees of probationary periods depending upon the departments. So to use the term probation, kind of, because it'll vary from department to department, but this group can establish, not necessarily a probationary period, but
Instead of saying probationary, why don't you say, now it just escaped me, they would be eligible to receive this at a
Right,
certain point.
right, in other words, yeah, after 6 months of employment or 90
Right,
days
right.
of employment or
It
whatever.
gives a better connotation than saying
Right.
probation.
Yeah, I agree. So the question then is, if we waive it and then establish a new policy, or what do you want to do? Because otherwise, what I think is going to happen is that we're going to have departments, and understandably so, that are going to come in at each of these anniversary dates. And it's going to be kind of a nightmare scenario for Darcy to go in and okay, well, now Joe's been here years, so we're going to give, yeah, X has been here a year, so we're going in and we're making all these changes. Whereas if you make it uniform all at once, it's done, it's over with. So it's, and maybe it's not as big a deal as I think it might be. I don't know.
Yeah, only Joe and the top person on the list would be affected by a 6-month.
I'm not affected.
But by just, you would if you were getting a raise.
If I was getting a raise, yeah.
And the person that would be affected by the 6-month is just 3 days short of that.
Yeah.
So I do think we need to look at it. I'm just not sure what the right answer is.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
So each individual department would ostensibly be budgeting for those raises within
Right.
the department, right? So
Right.
that's already something that the individual departments
They
are
did
doing,
when
and
they
they,
submitted their budgets.
and they have discretion, to give a raise or not give a raise. So would you be removing that discretion, or would you say we're giving you the option to waive it for your employees who have been working for less than 12 months, or?
Here's how I'm going to answer that question
Sure.
for me. So the Board of Supervisors, each individual department and elected official. So, and I'm going to use Christie as a hypothetical. So we come along here and so, she determined 6 months into the fiscal year that, she's budgeted for giving Darcy, I'm going to call it a step increase.
Mhm.
But what the Board of Supervisors is doing when we approve a budget or we submit a budget, or we ask the compensation board to look at things. And then we determine, I'm gonna call it a blanket raise. It's for the elected officials. That's what we have jurisdiction over, so to speak. But ever since I've been here, and I'm not saying that's right, wrong, or different, but like last year,
Mhm.
or the fiscal year we're in, we said 0. So we didn't budget. Now, there were some increases that took place, as we're all well aware of. But the point being is that we generally will pass on whatever the comp board recommends for elected officials. We pass that on, and I hate the term, but to the rank and file,
Mhm.
to those that are unelected. But as we're well aware of, public health has its own board that really has jurisdiction over its budget. We only have jurisdiction over what we appropriate. So the only department that we have any real jurisdiction over throughout the course of the year is the engineers department. All the rest of them are under elected officials.
Oh, well, ambulance.
Well, I'm sorry, yes, ambulance. Yeah, you're right. So, but generally, I've always viewed it as what we're talking about here is when we say 2%, 3%, 6%, 7%, we're saying countywide. So that really didn't answer your question, but that's what I'm thinking is that that's what we've told all the departments to
Mhm.
budget for. Now, to be sure, or to be fair, and you're right, if it's been budgeted, they don't have to apply it until they meet that 1-year mark in that regard. And then the department, which is already budgeted for, it would just kick in. So there would be some initial savings upfront depending upon where they fall within that 1 year. We would do the same, for example, our ambulance director. Because he'll be 1 month roughly short.
But he could just come to you the next month and it
Right.
could be budgeted and. he could-
And we would do like the other departments where it's already been budgeted for, so when they hit their anniversary date.
Yeah.
It kicks in.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's more palatable for the board. Because it has been budgeted, everybody's budgeted it in their budget. As far as what it looks like. So the dollars are already, or potentially, if we approve the budget, would be appropriated. They just wouldn't be expended until they reach the anniversary date. And maybe that's the memo that would need to be sent out. Now, on those brand new hires, they probably wouldn't get anything at all this fiscal year. Which I'm not arguing for or against, I'm just making a statement.
So you think it would be fair to go 6 months then, instead of a
Well,
full year?
I think that that's a separate issue. That if we want to address the policy itself and make a change to the policy, that's a separate issue, separate discussion.
To me, the fairest thing would be to give them that on their anniversary date. And
Okay,
I know that's more work for Darcy.
And then not change any policies, is that what you're saying?
Well, you'd have to put it, instead of a year, you'd have to say on their anniversary date. But that's just my thinking.
well, and you can rewrite that. Yeah, you know, you can rewrite the policy for sure, the board can do that. But I do believe that rewriting the policy is a separate issue of this. So what we're saying then is, during the course of the fiscal year, if they obtain 1 year's employment, at some point, whenever their anniversary date is, the 7% or the 6% or the 2% would kick in. Whatever, is that what you're saying, Sue?
Well, that's what I'm saying, yes.
So is that in the form of a motion?
You guys want to talk about that song?
No, I
Do we
think,
need- Do we need to change anything? Yeah,
well,
because they do come to us at the 1 year anniversary, right?
no, they
No.
don't, no, they don't come to us. No, so what we're saying, generally speaking,
Okay, I'm thinking the road department.
Or the
Well-
sheriff's office does it, but that's been that way for years.
Right.
Yeah,
And that's essentially on their anniversary.
right,
So.
well, then they've completed their 12 months. After they've completed their, in the case of the deputies, some of them don't, their 12 months doesn't start till they get out of
training.
academy.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes 6 months before they can get to and get through the academy, so they may be there 18 months.
Oh,
But, which is what Susie's referencing, what we're saying here is that, or what we've done in the past, is when the comp board recommends a pay raise for the elected officials, like I said, we generally have told, if we've accepted that, or whatever we arrive at as a number, the board has always said to the department heads, that, you know, figure this amount in your budget, because that's what we intend to appropriate to everybody, pass on to their employees. But our handbook states that you have to be employed for a year before you can get that.
that
Raise.
okay.
And so what I hear Susie saying is that since the department heads have already budgeted it, that when they hit their 1 year anniversary date, they'll start collecting that increase. Is that a fair assessment?
I agree. Is that a motion?
Emotion.
Okay, so let me see if I can. Did you write that
It's
down?
gonna be on fire here.
You're gonna need a pencil just in case you have to change that.
So, since each department has budgeted for all employees to receive the compensation approved by the Board of Supervisors, they will begin receiving it on their anniversary date. Now, some of them won't get it obviously until just before almost the next fiscal year starts.
Right.
But the handbook does say 12 months, so on their anniversary date. So for example, we'll use our Director of Operations in the ambulance. His anniversary date is August 1st. So August 1st. So what I would like then, that would be the motion, and then I would also ask the auditor's office to send out a memo or an email to the department heads, informing them that that's how we decided to proceed, if that's okay with the board, so the department heads are aware that. Now, with the exception of those folks that are on that list, everybody else will receive their compensation at the beginning of the fiscal year.
Right, I was gonna say, not to mess up the motion, but just to specify that this is for employees who have been hired less than 12 months. That's what your motion is.
Yeah.
It's not like all employees are gonna be getting a raise on their anniversary date.
You're absolutely right.
Right.
That, then that'll
Yeah.
take control to everybody.
So what this was said. This was said.
You need a shock collar.
I could
Or two of them.
sometimes.
I get with you.
That's right.
Right.
Okay, so do we have a second to what Elizabeth said?
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion?
Oh, no.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was clear as mud, wasn't it? Okay,
After I got my head wrapped around it, yeah.
so can we, for the sake of argument, or to coin a phrase from Chris, for the good of the,
You're taking a break.
just give me 2 minutes. Can you wait 2 minutes?
I'm here, guys.
Okay, I'll be right back.
All right.
And then we will discuss and consider property at 3029 136th Street.
Siri set it on for 2 minutes.
Do what?
Had Siri set it on for 2 minutes.
Oh, I'm not on yet.
ain't gonna make it.
Oh, wait a minute.
I didn't
There
really
it
do
is.
that.
If you wanna Read it. I appreciate this.
Chris,
It wasn't
I think
working.
that maybe I misspoke to Abby. I don't know when you guys come back, if you want to make an amendment regarding this solar ordinance work session. I do want to have a work session. I guess I didn't mean to set it for today. So
Okay.
whenever the board wants to do it or has.
Things just appear on there, Elizabeth.
No, I mean, it was my doing. I told Abby that we should set a work session. I guess I just,
Cause you know, set a date.
yeah, just need to set a date for it. Thank you. Because I'll have to run out of here by 10 o'clock.
Let's do that.
I'm gonna send her some time that works for you and see.
Oh, yeah, yes, I could do that. I'm generally available, on Tuesdays and Fridays. Okay, so.
You think you'll let me do something?
Maybe not. Be gone for so long. Let's see, is it what?
We should have been accountants,
April 18th.
responsibility, there shouldn't be water in that pit. So.
Okay. Oh, next
yeah, that's it.
Friday.
Good for you.
Good, just in time for a 2-day weekend.
Mhm.
Where are the girls today?
Shannon's sick.
Huh?
Shannon's sick. Abby had to go to a chiropractor. She hurt herself. So she can't go now.
Wow.
I had to find it the record state place. All right. Okay. Come on down.
I'm not sure I want to speak.
Uh, So, is Mark on?
Yes.
Yes, Mark's on, okay. So. You were in the other day, back, and there was some question. I'm not sure that I didn't have Mark looking at the wrong address, because I think we were looking at 101 North Center Street. Because that was the address that was on the, but, so the question is, hey, Mark, question is, you indicated you were making,
Yeah, I've got
Payments.
receipts where I make payments.
yeah, so for me, that's not an issue. So I'm not sure what your question is.
Well, my question, my complaint has been since the day we did this, that I was blindsided and totally overbilled on it. And by blindsided, there was never once a comment made that anybody was gonna show up. You know. Yes. I was sent a letter that said I was in, now I'm lacking your terminology. I wasn't in compliance or whatever the code was, okay? I asked for a punch list, what we wanted. I could never get one. The next thing I knew, there's people out there and I get charged $30,000 for a cleanup that I had never seen a bill on. I'd never seen anything that, the only thing I ever saw was it's this paper here that and I scribbled on this with some other things, that the subtotal was 26.5. Supposedly they sold 768.60 in scrap and the final total was 25,731.40. And now, when I asked the other day, supposedly there is no adjustment against this property right now, or no special assessment.
No, what I just said was, I think I gave Mark.
No, I asked on 30/29 when I did my taxes. The 31st, and now they say there's no special assessment against this. So I may have
Okay.
cried wolf, as far as, but I've got receipts of the 3 or 4,
Right.
payments that I made. It's there. I'm not really fine with it. No. Special tax 2573.14 with the interest of 793. This was September of 2024. And then. But when I asked the other day, they said they're. Okay. 10/2 of 23, or so it'd be September for 23, it was 2573.14 with interest 863. And
Is that
that's on the 30/29.
right, but I guess, Mark, do you have, what are just the normal taxes on 30/29, 136th Street?
Regular property taxes for this past year that the second half was due last month, $328.
I'm sorry.
$328.
Okay,
Well, there was nothing due on it supposedly when I checked, when I did them last week or last.
Which is correct. A payment was made back in August for the full year. So the 328 was actually paid in August. Nothing was due in March. September of 24, the installment part of the special assessment was made. So he is absolutely right. At this point, nothing's due. The special assessment is annually. So if somebody says, is anything due? no, you have a zero balance right now because nothing's due until September. I mean, property taxes are due every year. So when when
Right.
somebody comes into our office and says, hey, is there anything due? The answer is no, because nothing's due until September.
But there is a special assessment then on that property.
Yeah, and it's payments are due annually through 2031.
Well,
So
I
the
know
next
when
one is the next installment's due right now, 3,023.14, but we'll probably take it in September. That's
Oh.
kind of how he's been doing it the last few years.
Right, okay. I do know that in the past, it's always been. How do I want to say this? Whatever the payment is, has to be paid all at once. It can't be split into two halves.
Well, that I understand.
Right.
I just,
So, the assessment was placed on the property and you have been paying it, so and. Do you have, because I'm fairly confident, I'm just guessing, but I'm fairly confident that the first letter that you received probably indicated what sections of the ordinance.
it was, yes, and I looked for
And
them
when
and
they
somehow,
do that, they list what that section states, so I'm just gonna say hypothetically, the nuisance ordinance, section 2, which includes tires, hazardous waste, blah, 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 whatever's listed, which would be technically.
it was ironic, this property, we never went across the driveway. I had rented the house and everything they listed originally in the
Can I
ordinances.
interrupt you for just a second?
Yeah.
Do we need to put something on for later in the week? Or not?
For solar,
Huh?
for solar work session, or are you talking about something? Oh, I will get back to you on that.
Okay,
And I will talk about whether or not we want to have some other potential closed session.
okay.
And the burn ordinance has been approved by Brett, just so you know, and I'm sorry I had to go.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you, appreciate it.
Yep.
I apologize.
No, you're fine. Now you gotta tell me where I was at.
You're right there in the chair.
Yeah, they never went across the driveway. The one letter that complained about things was from a previous tenant. The vehicles and stuff like that I lost were titled. And supposedly the county has jurisdiction, a title means nothing.
No, I think I'd have to get the ordinance out, but I think the ordinance reads that if they're unlicensed,
Well, these
they didn't
weren't
have their own
necessarily.
license, I'll put it that way. I don't know that they did or they didn't, I'm just saying what the
Well,
ordinance reads.
I know for a fact they did, I can look them, or I was gonna bring them, but I didn't, but. It was ironic how it was done. They spent 2 days out in my pasture and in my cattle lot. Going after trash they cleaned up 3 brush piles. The first thing they did is they pulled in and took a pickup trailer that was loaded with firewood. And dumped the firewood into a dumpster and then loaded the pickup trailer to go to the salvage yard because that wasn't part of the farm environment. And the kid got $5,000 an hour for a skid loader. I realized he went and rented it, but the hours they were there and what I got billed, he got $5,000 an hour for a skid loader.
Well, I guess the question I have is, or a statement and a question. I wasn't here, so I wasn't part of the equation at the time, but it seems like 4 years later is a little late to be having the discussion.
This has been, I've got papers filed at the state over the COVID thing. Part of this was right before the COVID broke out.
Okay.
And so everybody lost track. I was at the meeting after, when I got presented this, which I had never seen until after the meeting. This came in the mail after the meeting. I was here and, got shut down. Well, that's just the way we do things. And that's what I was told, and that's. Well, I
I
Well, I
appreciate
can't
it.
get anything through the state. I can't, what I'm saying is I have set. Well. Did some groundwork on it and everything and I mean, this was straight up a gout and it was straight up you know. And I don't know how to proceed against it. But I hate to pay $40,000 for something that, was a $5,000 deal. And that's what I'm up against. You got, I mean, I'm on the hook here.
I was here.
Well, Susie was the only one that was here, but,
Well, the final total was 25,731.
yeah, but by the time you paid $100 a year interest, it's
No,
gonna be over $40,000.
Which I understand. You're right, there is, I think it's 2%. Don't quote me on that. I don't know for sure.
2.5. 29,839.40 will be the grand total after everything's paid.
Okay. I mean, I know generally how the procedure works and I'd be curious to find out from you or whomever, if you've got it in your paperwork, was what the date was of the first letter you received.
I can't find that. Like I said, I think I got 2 certified letters and that was all. And the comment was made that if I'd have paid the fine, I'd have probably been all right. And I never once received anything with a monetary value on it. I was never, and so it's a he said, she said type deal on that because I cannot swear to that. I don't know if certified letters are recorded. I don't know.
Well, certainly there's probably copies of the letters that were sent out that I could probably access as far as that.
Well,
part
that's
is
what I'm
concerned.
saying. I don't,
What I'm asking, I guess, Brian, to be perfectly honest with you, is some rudimentary idea of the timeframe that elapsed between your first.
It'd probably been
your
2
second
years.
letter. Yeah, I mean. to
I
me-
mean, I'm not gonna argue that point. It'd probably been 2 years. I work a full-time job. I jack with this on weekends and do the weather fees and things like that, whatever I know the irony of it is
Whoops.
10 days before this happened. I've got Amish friends and there's an Amish business right next door to me and I was down, it's a welding shop and I was down there. They go, hey, we're having a work day, or I made some comment about, oh, I gotta go get some more shit cleaned up and get some more stuff cleaned up there and everything. They go, well, we're having an Amish work day. If you want, we'll just bring over 8 or 10 guys and we'll help you clean up. And I go, well, if I knew what I was cleaning, that'd be fine. But I don't know where we're going or what And I was salvaging through some of it and sorting it and everything, and so it was it was one of those processes. It was easier for me to do by myself, but I burnt quite a bit of it. I didn't, the county made a comment about some stuff in the ditch. I got that all cleaned out.
Well, I
It was all
also,
within the property. I mean,
I also know that probably on the letters that you received, there were phone numbers to call.
I had called.
And, well, I'm just telling you what I would know in terms of, it wasn't just a blank sheet, so to speak. There were numbers there, somebody that you could have reached out to. Because I know that probably in the letter somewhere it said, if this has been cleaned up or whatever, call us, we'll come and inspect it and write it off. I don't know what the exact words would be, but, they wouldn't just not interact with you in terms of if you indicated, hey, I've cleaned all this up, okay, we'll be over to inspect it and write it off. If indeed it had been cleaned up, and I'm just saying that's the process they have. Somebody has to determine whether or not the work had or had not been done, and whether it,
This was all done by drive-bys at night. Virtually speaking, there was never a personal contact, period.
well, I can't, like, first of all.
No, there was, I mean, that I do know.
The fact is that, I'm sure that you received letters prior to this one. And you evidently entered into, an agreement, payment agreement. For up to a maximum of 10 years. So, again, I don't know. To me, 4 years after you entered into the agreement is a little late to come back and dispute the numbers. Whether or not you're accurate and I'm not saying you are, or I'm not saying you aren't, I'm just simply saying that 4 years is, and the fact that you signed an agreement to have the over a period of, well, up to 10 years, I don't know exactly what the length of your agreement is, I just know that it can go up to 10 years. And as Mark indicated, 2.5% interest. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say. You had more interaction with it than we would have had.
I'm curious as to when the dates were, of it's originally started.
Well, the date of this letter that was sent by Darren was November 5th of 2021.
That was the settlement date.
Yeah.
So they'd been prior to that.
Yeah, I was just curious when that was.
Yeah, so they'd
Well,
have
he
been,
said 2 years.
Very honestly, I don't remember a lot about this. I used to own this property. So that would have stuck way out to me if I heard the address.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure. That's why I want to look into this.
Well, he
well, it
said,
would have been 19, I'm assuming.
In 19. I didn't take office till 21, so that.
Unless
Unless
you were fresh. He's
I
21.
was tired, but maybe I was new.
Yeah,
I just, it'd be nice to make Brian wait another week, sorry, so we can
No,
look
it
at
ain't
the I just wanna
gonna
look at
make-
the paperwork.
I mean, I'm trying to,
this is the only paperwork I found, but,
Oh, in the files?
well, I didn't go in the files in there.
Yeah, I guess I think I would like to do that, it's just.
I mean, I know it was handled by the Russ organization, so now whether or not any of it came through in the board, I honestly cannot answer that.
As a general rule, after the first letter goes out,
Mhm.
if you are disputing whether or not your property qualifies for a nuisance, as a nuisance, you would have that
Well,
conversation.
see, I don't think, I probably never disputed it, I probably got the letter, I knew it needed cleaned up, you know. I did what I thought was appropriate, or, you know.
Well, and I'm just, what I'm giving you is a generic timeframe. At the
Right.
first letter, it indicates in there that, within 30 days, if you dispute that it's a nuisance, that you come and talk to the board. After that, if there is no conversation, then the next letter goes out as certified, however many certified letters they ultimately would end up sending. And each one of those letters would explain, to some extent, I mean, it's not gonna be a 4-page letter, but to some extent would explain what the issues are and what happens if you don't.
If I remember correctly, the only thing that were ever in the letters were not compliant to such and such code number.
Right.
And there may have been a paragraph in the code, or the code itself.
Generally, when they cite the code itself, the ordinance, and then the ordinance itself has, I don't know, in fact, there's 6 or 7 different categories,
Right.
and they will list category 2, category 6, category 4, and what those categories
And
say.
that was the only answer I could ever get from anyone. No, I did not contact the board to the day I got this letter when they they issued me you might say a settlement page or whatever, said all of a sudden you owe this amount of money, then I got on the agenda and I come down and I go, guys, this ain't right, and I got shut down because yes, I had been in contact with the Rust people several different times saying, hey, I need to know about this, I need to know about that. And well, we're too busy or we're not, we're not gonna deal with that on a, per issue type situation and and my being here is when I paid my taxes, I asked everybody if it was still owed, if this was still on. You told me the same thing when we had our conversation. I actually come in today feeling pretty good, thinking I was crying wolf. That this had washed itself and we were good to go. Well, I didn't, apparently not, and like I said, I do have papers filed through my attorney with the state trying to, cause they had that COVID gouging deal and everything but as you are well aware of, trying to deal with a state office is quite frustrating too, because trying to find somebody and after the new election, you're not sure anybody even works there. So, nobody can give me an answer whether I've got a leg to stand on there either, but I've dealt with an attorney, I've dealt with this for 3 or 4 years. I mean, trying to be here every Monday for a meeting, no, this ain't, that's not something. I'm just asking if I've got a leg to stand on. You're telling me after the fact, I knuckled under, I bowed down, so it's a grin and bear it. And, if that's the case, so be it, but.
Well, Susie said she'd like to.
I mean, if you can, I swear to God, I kept those certified letters and stuff and I went clear through everything I had the other night where I thought I knew where they were at and I can't put my hand on it. So
I think Brandon, by us going back and looking at what's in the records here, will solve everybody's issue.
well, no, and that's,
You'll
and
know
and
what-
I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to throw anybody under a bus.
I know that.
That's not my deal. I mean, I just like to be treated fairly and I
understand.
don't think this is the way this works.
Mhm.
I am not arguing the issue. I was probably non-compliant when the nuisance order was filed. I would love to know who filed the nuisance deal, but I also know at that particular moment, the man that was living there was living in another one of my rental properties and unfortunately, well, to his dismay, it was 200 foot from my house. And so when you don't pay rent there and your wife takes care of that one, you don't live there. It's real simple. Well, when he was living up there, I was a little more lenient because of a few things. And when he got thrown out of the house, all of a sudden I had problems with my rental in town and I had problems with this one and they all came down about the same time. When this outfit came in, 90% of the stuff that left that wasn't mine was his. And once they got past his, everything stayed. And so I mean, they had stuff in the nuisance ordinance that I didn't even know was there. Now, that would have had to, somebody would have had to toll, and it's water under a bridge. I'm well aware of that. I'm just saying, I'm not 100% happy how it all worked, and I mean, the first thing left after that trailer was my 95 diesel pickup. And, yeah, it was wrecked, but all the parts were laying in the back to fix it. Did it have a current license on it? No, but it was 6 months out of date. I was coming up with the idea I was gonna put it back together and put it back on the road, And it was kind of amazing. 2 weeks before this all went down, amazingly enough, the hood had flew open on it, which it had sat there for 6 months after I'd hit the deer. And somebody had been there and gone through it and knew what Sam Fender it was. And that was the second thing that went out on the trailer. And it was clear around behind the house, unless you even knew it was there, you'd have never found it. So it wasn't a nuisance from the road, it wasn't,
Did it go to scrap then?
That's what the deal says, and we never could track it down and find it, but I don't think so. It would have parted out for $3,000 or $4,000, so no, I'm doubting. A bumper and a tire and you could have drove it. You know, so I'm saying probably not. But, I mean, I can't prove any of that. I never saw the bills. I never saw what was on them. What I received was this letter right here and $748. There was haying equipment, there was fencing equipment. They loaded up picnic tables. I had windows sitting there that I was gonna put in the house that got thrown in bottoms of dumpsters and got broke. And
So who cleans up something like this? Do they hire?
apparently the county only got one bid from, huh?
I say it's bid out.
It's bid out.
Only one kid bid it and his name, he's from Rubio. Oh, son of a gun. Give you his name. I wanna say Grimm or something like that, but it isn't. Oh, I have to look around, but trust me.
That's not.
Well, it was etched in my mind for quite some time, but I can drive you to his house, cause I went looking for half this stuff, and it wasn't necessarily there, but I also know that he had forfeited on a couple other people that he'd been in business with, and he wasn't highly reputable.
Well, if you're amenable to it, we can certainly put it back on next week's agenda and look at.
Oh, I mean,
Well,
unless
what I
you
will
need
say-
me here, I don't have to be here.
No.
If you would
no,
look
no.
at it, that you know, and if you think I have some legitimate.
Well,
Yeah,
what I
I'll
would
come
say,
back.
what I would say is that just for everybody's reference. Just to make a point, so that we don't forget, the taxpayers paid the $25,731.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not some abstract number that we came up with. This is what. came out.
My point is somebody approved this $25,700 and some dollars.
Yeah, the bid was approved, I'm sure, by the board.
Well,
Okay,
that's,
but again, you know, the board, in defense of the board isn't gonna go out and move this stuff. And I'll be honest with you, Brian, I've got no problem looking at the paperwork. But that being said, this was a 2-year process. You, by your own admission, and to me, even this last letter that you received from Darren states in here, if you have any concerns with this amount, please contact the board within 15 days.
Maybe something to do.
I'm sorry, what?
I think Mark maybe had something to do.
Oh, Mark, go ahead.
This cleanup was part of a bigger group. There were multiple parcels that were part of this.
Okay.
It was discussed through most of 2021. If I remember correctly, rescue plan money was used in order to do the cleanup. And we established, I say we, the Board of Supervisors at the time established the 10-year special assessment with a 2.5% interest. So Brian's situation isn't specific or isolated. It's a group of multiple parcels that were part of this. I know that there were multiple discussions in board meetings about it and that Darren was handling most of it. So as far as the letter that you have and then any further correspondence, that's a great question, but I do wanted you guys to be aware that there are multiple parcels involved with this specific special assessment.
But certainly we can, I have no.
well, I wish I had a date because I never, to my knowledge, because this must be the same letter you got. Is it's okay, if any concerns, I never received this till the day I was at the meeting after it had already been done. So that 15-day deal, yeah, I showed up at the supervisor meeting that day. But it had already been done and approved. I never saw this letter prior to the work being done. When I showed up, this was a submitted bill. And that's when I got this letter.
Well,
So, I mean, if you wanna check on it and see,
Yeah, we
and if
can-
I've got a leg to stand on, just, you know,
yeah, now with
get a
the,
hold of me, that's
It's-
fine, but I mean. I'm just very disappointed.
Yeah,
That's, I
I get
mean,
it.
well, the wild part about it is you're all landowners and whatever. And if somebody told you they were coming into your property to do $30,000 worth of work, you'd probably kind of want to know what the Sam Thunder they were doing. Especially when I bought it for 25,000. It's a $25,000 property, so why would I go in, you know,
right,
and do $30,000 worth of demo work to it? You know, I mean, and the wild part about it is I work for a construction outfit and everything, so. And my boss, we are not the cheapest ball in town, but he goes for 10 grand. He says, I'd have demoed the whole thing and you had a prairie farm. And I go, well, you know. What I'm saying is there was some serious price gouging and stuff like that going on the deal, and I'm very disappointed, so.
So bring me up to date, we're gonna have to look back on stuff. That's-
Yeah, we're gonna have to go into the archive somehow. You have better records than apparently I do. Like I said, I honestly, I am assuming this. I'm assuming the first one, my first letter, and I'm just throwing out. Because I'm thinking this happened going into the winter, so I'm thinking the first one was somewhere, my first letter was probably somewhere between August and December. Of 19, or we can use 19 or you can use 20, it doesn't, you know. And if Darren sent, well, see, I don't know, is this letter from Darren, is yours dated? No,
yeah, November 21st, November 5th of 2021.
Well, see, and I mean, you could go back. Well, from that date and probably it would say what you're saying, whether it was the second or third or. You know,
And we can check that out, so.
I mean, I would think it would be in the minutes. You know
Well,
what I mean?
There would be,
There should be copies of the letter. in
yeah,
the
the
file.
certified
Yeah,
letters and
Yeah,
stuff, so.
certified should be common.
So, but like I said, I apologize, I was
No.
looking for them and I thought I could find them and I couldn't, I mean. But,
So we'll go from there and.
all right, well, I
we'll put it
appreciate
back
your
on-
time
If
and
you
like
want
I
to right
said.
now, we'll put it back on next week's agenda. To
Thank you for
discuss and
that.
consider.
Well, it's just, like I said, if I could get a resolution, I would be greatly appreciative. And I also understand where you're coming from, and, you know, there's been a time frame, but
Well, we'll go back through, find as much stuff as we can find and we'll go
Thank
from
you.
there.
Yep.
Yep, appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks, Todd, appreciate it. You know, I'm fairly confident that there's probably a bushel basket full of paperwork.
There'll be record back there.
I just want to see the dates.
Yeah. Because as Mark indicated, there was evidently several properties during 21 that, and I imagine the one out west of town was one of those properties.
Yep.
And the point is that, you know, whether you had one person or two person or 14 people bid, this would have been the low bid. Simply because it was the only bid you had, and the taxpayers paid that bill, almost $26,000.
Well, Russ was involved with this, right?
Yeah,
They should have,
but the bids are all approved by the board.
by this board.
Yes,
Okay. Okay,
yes.
and there should be record back there.
Yeah.
We took, for example, we go back to a property up in Abington. We approved that bid. A property in Lynby, we approved that bid. The property in Lynby was paid in full after it was done. Property in Abington, they're making payments.
It needs cleaned up again.
Well, I wouldn't dispute that, so is the one out west of town. Which that reminds me, I need to get a hold of Jerry because that property was cited, it needed a disposal system. So anyway, neither here nor there. Next on the agenda, discuss and consider burn ordinance. I actually don't have a copy of that burn ordinance.
Well, then my file either.
I don't have it either.
I don't either.
So I do know Elizabeth said that she's probably took the ordinance that Brett submitted and did a plug and play. And Brett is on vacation.
She said he had approved.
Yeah, he approved it.
She didn't send us a copy or anything, did you?
Yeah, they copies.
I haven't seen a copy of it.
Yeah, I gave you a copy
Okay, I'm sorry.
and
I know what I did. I probably on my way out the door.
and then I gave Elizabeth a copy. But essentially, what we need to do is we need to set public hearing. In the meantime, we can hit copy of the ordinance. I think I gave her my copy. Right here. City couldn't be here today, so they can move past it. Meaning we don't have to do this today, is that what we're saying?
I guess so, yeah. Wait till you can come,
Okay,
maybe next week.
yeah. There's the ordinance, Powashik County. There's Powashik.
That's what was in, I remember the Powashik County.
Yeah.
Yep, I do too. It's over there somewhere. 'Cause I didn't pick it up.
Okay. Can I help you?
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna provide public comment.
Oh, okay, well, we're not quite there yet. Give us, so we're just going to table this, right?
Yeah.
Put it back on next
that's
week's
right.
agenda, okay.
You need a motion to do that or just do
We
it?
probably should, just
I
for the
move we
record.
table the burn ordinance till
Second,
next week.
Sure,
okay,
till the 14th of April.
yeah. All in favor, say, well, unless you want to do something different,
No.
okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And we let. Well, let's do the committee reports and then. So maybe public comment on. the
Okay,
committee reports.
can I start?
Sure,
So
Joe, go ahead.
as, I'm gonna throw something at you. Simcoe, again, there were several days they were closed because of winds. And it's so interesting how they can predict that a day ahead of time, you know?
I bet it costs them a chunk of change though.
Yeah.
Well, they make up for it, I guess.
Oh, I
the
think
days they are
it's
open.
gotta come in at some
Yeah.
point. I've been working with the extension office quite a bit. Right now, even seating, we're gonna go through, some scholarships to determine what kids get the scholarships.
Okay.
And, so that's an ongoing process. It'll be over tonight. Madison Barnes, the main force this week is to get ready for the tours that are coming in a week. And
Ah,
in case you have nothing to do, they'd like some volunteers out help. They're helping on those days.
okay.
What else? Okay. I need to remind you the chamber dinner is April the 24th, if you guys would like to attend that. And that's it.
Okay. Joseph,
Monday I attended, the city had a tax levy hearing at noon at the city hall and I attended that and it was several people there asking questions and stuff and Tuesday I had a DCAP meeting and I sat here and zoomed in on that. And
still got cats?
pardon?
Still have cats?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Didn't
And,
work out too well, did it?
Then I attended
Hello.
this RAC meeting that I'm dealing with at the Eco Lab on Friday from 12 to, well, I kicked out of there at 2:30. I had fish fry that night at church, so I had to go cook fish.
It's on me, almost as bad as here.
Yes, yes, it was long. It's too long. RAC,
Amanda's
Resilient Action Committee,
Okay.
so. I'll comment after.
Okay.
So, and that's all I got.
Well,
You were here last week, that's something.
I was here last week, yes, and I had early childhood. And those days are numbered. Probably the first of the year, it will go away.
Yeah. That's too bad.
It is. I wrote down a lot of stuff. Scholarships are gonna be in question. We're going from 3 counties to 14, I believe.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it's going to look, but very similar to what they did with mental health, where they redesigned the governance board. So there would be a limited number of elected officials on it and a varying degree of stakeholders, faith-based, business-based, so on and so forth. I made the point to Tammy that we would not participate if a requirement came up that counties were to contribute. And that's not in the works, so don't misunderstand anybody. They're not asking the counties to contribute any money. What I'm saying is that if we don't have control over the funds, then we're not gonna participate. I've been down that road before where they have 5 elected officials and 5 the 15-member board, and 10 of them don't control any money. And
They're just sitting there, basically.
well, basically, but the ones that are having to be accountable for the money are not in the majority. And it becomes problematic. So we will be District 6. The child care nurse consultant may go away or change. That hasn't been wholly determined yet, just so we know.
Right.
Home visitation will be probably through CETA. I don't know exactly how to explain that. There'll be federal funding. And the question came up because right now, early childhood does provide some funding for transportation for scholarship eligible families for daycare. So I did bring up, and I did talk to Jay, and we are willing to step up because if there is funding available, and we do 1015 Transit does door to door. So where the issue is to kind of put it in perspective. So there's transportation that would be afforded to go back to a daycare, like Cambridge or like Little Achievers or community childcare. But to go to Christie's house where she has an in-house daycare, where she has kind of like what Abby uses, a private daycare. They wouldn't fund transportation back to the private daycares.
Really?
Yeah.
Even though kids are the
Right.
constant.
Yeah, this is from preschool, so we're taking them to and from preschool, right? So I said 1015 Transit will step up if there's funding available. Because usually if it's coming from a school, it's on a school bus and they're only gonna go to, shall we say, pre-prescribed locations.
Right.
We will do the door to door. We do door to door anyway, what we call demand response. So we will do it. We have buses that are equipped for Head Start children. We still do Head Start in Keokuk County. So we're equipped and able to do it, and we will do it if so Tammy's got that on her radar. We've got a few months to try and pull this together. So there's gonna be $16 million program that could provide grants for preschool and early childhood centers up to $100,000 annually to provide full-time childcare. The question that I asked, and this is not on Tammy, so don't anybody misunderstand. The question I asked is, I have a child in daycare and I'm paying $30 a day or $50 a day or whatever it is I'm paying for daycare. If that child is, say, at school X for 4 hours doing preschool, and I'm paying for the preschool, am I still paying for the daycare during that 4 hours? Well, nobody can answer me that question. And I said, well, that's really problematic, because now you've got a 4 hour time frame that potentially a parent is going to be paying.
Double dipping.
Exactly. And I said, that can't work. Obviously, you know, I'm the odd man out here in terms of just one voice. But that's a question that I honestly do believe needs to be answered. And I also believe even if funding is provided for preschool, so that the parent isn't being charged for preschool, parents shouldn't be charged for daycare if the child isn't at daycare. So that's.
So wait and see, but make sure we watch.
Yes, yeah. So there is some talk about all day preschool. I don't know how that would work for 3 and 4 year olds. But I'm not qualified to do that. The funds that the money would come from is existing funding used for Early Childhood Iowa, a current state program that helps families with kids prenatal to 5 years old. And ECI gets about $27 million annually. I just know that how it looks for us here is going to change, at least probably about the first of the year. We're no longer going to be involved. Where it goes with DCAT, I don't know, because a lot of the same people are on both boards for different reasons, but.
Sure.
Okay, and then I did particularly, my ears did perk up a little bit regarding the child care nurse consultant.
As did mine.
Yeah, so that's what I can tell you on that. And that's, I guess, really basically all I had, so. Other comment?
Right, mind if I come up to the table?
Thank you for being patient.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me this morning. My name is John Huff. I'm a project outreach manager for Mid-American Energy Company. And I had hoped to weigh in a little bit on the solar discussion today, but I understand that that's probably going to be for another day. But that said, I still have a couple comments if you don't mind, and then maybe an ask for you at the end. So we don't have a proposed project here in Jefferson County at this time. That doesn't mean that will always be the case. You know, that's always subject to change. And that's regardless of, you know, where our service territory is. We have solar projects, wind projects, all kinds of different projects in counties where we're not necessarily, the majority of those residents don't pay their bill to Mid-American. That doesn't mean we can't have a generation project there. So with that said, a big part of my job, I go to different counties throughout the state, whether or not we have a project there, and offer some feedback on the drafting process when these things come up. And sorry that I wasn't able to give you a heads up on that. I found out about this meeting Friday, and then of course it's the weekend, so I wasn't able to give you a heads up. But anyway, Mid-American, we're taking an all of the above approach to electric generation. That would include solar. That also happens to align with Governor Reynolds' plans for Iowa as far as the all of the above generation approach. Bottom line is there's a drastic need for electric generation in this state. The demand forecasts are far exceeding the supply that we have right now to keep rates stabilized. So basically, we would like, you know, I think I can offer a perspective from the utility side of things, but also how it could impact customers potentially to either allow for solar generation or to basically be prohibitive to it. So with all that said, pretty common practice. It's something I do a lot in my job. We can exchange feedback during the drafting process. I work out of Des Moines, so it's a couple hour drive down here. That doesn't mean I can't come back. I'd love to come back and talk, or, you know, seems like you guys have a pretty good system where I could call in and talk about stuff, but pretty typically, counties will send me the draft of the ordinance, latest draft. John, do you have any feedback on this? Is there something you'd like to offer there? And I'll send them back what I think. Doesn't mean anybody has to do what I say, but that's pretty common for that to happen. So if I give you my contact information, I would love if we could trade ideas on that. And again, I don't have an immediate dog in the fight as far as Mid-American is concerned, but just I think I can offer the perspective from the utility and some of the impacts that a good ordinance or a bad ordinance could have. So.
Well, I think, it's obviously a learning process for us because we've not had this before. We dealt with a wind turbine ordinance here a couple months ago, weeks ago. And I do know that it's situation is catching on, and I have, speaking for myself, I have major concerns about it in the context of the number of acres that can be involved in this. It's very problematic to me, but there's a 5,000 or 6,000 acre project going on over in Hawaii in Muscatine County right now. And that's huge from my perspective, but we've just, and your input, obviously, we want to do what's best for the residents of Jefferson County. And what that looks like, we just don't know yet. And we're trying to gather information, so information from you would be just as valuable as information. We have an entity over in Henry County that manages both the zoning in Henry County and Loiza County, and so they're very familiar with what's going on there and can give insights that we just don't have. But we are at the, just more or less, I would say the stage we're at is, hey, we need to do something.
Yeah.
We just don't know what that something looks like yet.
Right.
So, and I guess one of the questions or answers that I think needs to be answered is, well, there's several of them, we'll have another conversation, but does it stay here? This was always one of the big conversations about wind turbines. That didn't stay here. So, it benefited, but it went on, if you pardon the expression, on down the wires, on down the road somewhere, and it went into some bank somewhere, as the theory goes, that we might be able to draw out of, but there was never any guarantee that we were going to draw out of that. Now, right here in this particular part of the county, we are a captive audience, if you will. Maybe you're not, but I'm a captive audience to Alliant Energy. So where's the benefit to me in terms of Mid-American has always traditionally been lower rates than Alliant Energy. Whether they still are or not, of course, I don't know. But there again, if we're taking up land, and then the other issue is not wanting to tell property owners what they can and cannot do with their land. It's one of the reasons we don't have zoning. So it's problematic, and there's a lot of catch-22s there that we've got to work through. And what that ultimately ends up looking like, I don't know, but I am convinced in my mind's eye that once you establish those, wherever they're at, same with the wind turbines, that land will never be farmed again. And it's, whether it's 50 acres or 550 acres, I just think that there's, for me, that's things that I've got to look at as well. So I'm not anti, but with cities expanding their borders and concrete getting poured for housing developments and so on and so forth, we're taking a lot of land out of production. And doesn't matter how much electricity you generate, if you don't have food to eat, then that becomes an issue. Now, agriculture has made leaps and bounds in being able to produce more on less. But at some point, we may run up against a wall on that too. So anyway, certainly, your participation in helping us develop an ordinance would be invaluable in that regard.
We would welcome you to help us out on that, comments and stuff.
Thank you.
So, part of my concern though, I think solar is okay, great deal, but it doesn't benefit us here in the Midwest. It's east or west. If it was staying here close, it'd be a plus for everybody. So that's kind of what bothers me. Why should we sacrifice here for the people out there?
Now, something else, and I'm not saying you guys aren't, so don't misunderstand. But one of the things that was being used as a sales tool in Louisa County, and I had a conversation with individuals, and I had a conversation this Wednesday with one of the supervisors in Louisa County. It's being promoted over there that it doesn't affect the 2% allowable growth, but it absolutely does. But it's being promoted that you can separate it out and the panels will be assessed separately than the land, and that the panels don't affect your allowable growth, but it absolutely does. Even if it's assessed as a utility, it's just like all the other utilities that, it's a state formula, but it impacts our allowable growth. And if they separate it out and make it a utility, and that's, instead of a commercial property, so if you're leasing the land from Joe that you're putting the panels on, then Joe's gonna pay a different assessment based on the lease land, and you're gonna pay based on the utility, but it still all affects our bottom line. And so, again, and I'm not saying you guys are, and I'm not saying, I don't even know, all I know is that it is being promoted at this point, which is why I'm gonna have a conversation Wednesday with Supervisor in the county by Russ, that it absolutely does impact. And I went to Shannon and verified all this, so.
Good.
But that doesn't mean anything.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not familiar with the 2% allowable growth situation. I'm
It's
not.
state legislature and our property tax. And what we're allowed to increase. So our valuations, our taxable valuations, there's a formula, once again, that the state has imposed that says you can only grow this much. So we can bring in $400 million of valuation, increased valuation. But we're only allowed to grow 10%, which means that we can't access all that new growth. We'll get more revenue, but it doesn't, how do I want to say this? It's 2% of whatever it is all we're allowed to grow. So $400 million is, well, I just tell you, 3% of $1 billion is 300,000. See, you're not allowed to grow very much. And so all of the valuation doesn't, all it does is it brings in more valuation, but we're still restricted. And it still impacts what we can and cannot do, which again is not, you don't have a dog in that hunt, but yes, I would love for you to be involved and have conversation and have us, allow us to take advantage of your expertise, if you would be willing to do so.
Happy to do it, and I won't take up much more time here today, but I will say too, my background is in agriculture stuff. And so that's something that I also want to protect the interest of agriculture as well. Well, I'll kind of leave with today. We do have a lot of plans for solar just statewide, right?
Right.
And not necessarily in Jefferson County, always subject to change. If we do all the solar that we're wanting to do over the next decade, and it's a massive, let me put it this way. Wind energy capacity, we have 7,700 megawatts of wind energy capacity, Mid-America does in the state of Iowa. Currently, we have 141 megawatts of solar. So solar is a very complementary resource to wind. We'd like to build a lot more of it. In the nearer term, we're trying to develop about 800 megawatts, okay? All the solar that we're trying to do over the next 10 years, we're talking about maybe 0.1% of the state's ag land. We got counties that have over 200,000 acres of ag land available, and some of them fight us tooth and nail over 400 acres. out of 200,000. And so I just think that sometimes I definitely have not heard about the 5,000 or 6,000 acre thing. Of course, that's not ours, and that's a little bit different animal, clearly.
Right.
So I think there's some nuance there, but regardless, I think there are ways, that we can, because you are willing to accept feedback, and I greatly appreciate it, I think there are ways that we can serve the needs of agriculture, of just the general public here in Jefferson County and citizens of the state of Iowa, and also serve what we need to do. I think that's entirely possible. I think we can certainly find some compromises, so long as everybody is open to the dialogue, really. So I appreciate
One of the
it.
things, and not for today, but when you come back or whatever, I'd like to know, really truly know the lifespan of this stuff, the inverters, the panels themselves. You know, and what I mean by that is because when we develop an ordinance, one of the things that we probably will not have here in Jefferson County is what I call graveyard.
Mhm.
That it would have to be disposed of somewhere else. That's what we said on the winter, you're not gonna dispose of them here.
Of course, yeah, no.
So,
Yeah, we plan on recycling our panels. Again, that's us, that's not somewhere, the lifespan of these projects is anticipated to be about 30 years, which if it still what we're trying to do, in the longer term than 30 years, we would work on that at that point, but that's the anticipated lifespan is 30 years. But it's definitely, I know what you're saying about you don't want to have stuff dumped in the county.
well, clearly 30 years, I will be part of the dirt under which you probably put the solar panels. But that's the other thing, in 30 years, technology may change, and then you're gonna wanna remove all those solar panels, go to something else. It's just. is
You
what
know,
it is.
Lee, they are thinking about putting a fence around those solar panels and putting old goats out there. So you might
Okay,
have a
I might qualify, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's something we'd like to try to do. So some stuff that, we haven't gotten
No,
to
they
that
gotta
yet,
do
the
that.
agrivoltaics, plant stuff under the panels, goats, all that stuff is certainly up for possibilities in the future.
You sure, certainly wouldn't have to mow.
No,
Thank you very
Play
much for your
marbles.
time. I hope to talk with you more. Yeah, John.
I appreciate it, John.
Yes, sir. Thank you for allowing me.
Thank you.
thank you, John.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you bet.
So we don't have. Oh, in the back. I just realized that, apologize, I didn't see the musical chairs or whatever they used to call it when we were kids. So we don't have claims, right?
Right,
Okay,
When will they be available to sign?
this morning yet.
Because you don't send the checks out until those are
Right.
signed. Okay.
Yeah. She'll have them this morning.
so, should we take a break before because I know she's got some stuff, bunch of stuff she wants to go through.
That's your call.
Well,
Thanks, John.
You bet. Take
take
care.
care. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn and then let everybody know that in about 5 minutes we'll come back. 11 o'clock, we'll come back. So motion to adjourn.
So second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll be back at 11 o'clock, folks. Please come and join us. Thank you. Call this meeting back to order for
I got something to say. Well,
our budget work session and set a date for solar of this work.
see that these things are all goes to okay. They received what we dispersed it.
Now, what you got, Christie?
All right, just a couple more things before we finalize budget next week. For our office, we just recently found out that our election laptops are not going to support Windows 11. And they have to be on Windows 11 by 2026 elections. We're estimating around 25,000, unfortunately, to get all new laptops.
Is there any chance you'll need it before then if there's any other special little elections? Like school?
I think they said by November 26th, so this year we're okay.
So a year and 4 months or whatever. Yeah.
I do have an email into PCS to see, last time we did this in 2019 or 17, they let us pay first installment current year, second installment, the next fiscal year, so. I have an email asking if we have that option again.
So just, so
Are you leaving again?
uh,
How much you say that was, Christine?
At least 25,000.
so
How
just so
many
I'm clear
computers?
on this. I understand that the computers won't accept, did you say Windows 11?
Yeah. And that's what the voting registration, like election day, they look up the voting registration information.
Right. So part two of the question is the state then switching over to Windows 11?
Yes, for that iPac system software.
Okay. So question three, is there any money from the state?
Are you kidding me?
No, actually, I'm not.
I know, but I'm saying, you
Yeah.
really think they're
They're
gonna,
not.
I was being facetious.
I just think we ought to reach out to Paul Pate and say, hey, you bringing in this new software. If they weren't bringing in the new software, would we have to change?
Nope,
There you go.
but I guess Windows 11 takes more memory than what we've got, so Jerry decided new laptops is our
No,
answer.
I understand that. I mean, I got problems with my computer and it's not Windows 11 and he says, well, you've only got so much RAM and it doesn't, Windows 11 takes more. I guess I get that, but I got Windows 10 and it's still slower than 7-year itch. But
So,
so my next question then was, what do
that'd
we
be number
do?
4.
That's, you're right. You're absolutely right. So we'll split this up into kind of two sessions. First session was 2 minutes ago. So we're in the second session. So it's a different set of questions. What happens to the computers that we have?
I think PCS usually
They-
takes them back, right? I guess I don't know if they can give us,
I don't want to give it to
if
them.
they can buy them back and use them.
You,
They take them back and.
Some sort of,
Yeah.
some sort of a credit back.
Okay, yeah, I can
they could
definitely
probably
ask.
upload Windows 11 and all that,
Yeah.
and then, but my point is that first off, I'm not sure we can give them away anyway. Now, if they take them in on trade,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah. Otherwise, I wonder if we, of course, probably nobody will want them because they're Windows 10, but then we also have to somehow or another wipe them.
Mhm.
PCS could probably do that, but
Yeah.
I would like to know what, if anything, they could give them for us if they're gonna take them. You said there's how many computers?
See, that was my
13,
question.
14, I think.
So 14 computers, $25,000?
Maybe it's 24, I can't remember.
Okay.
I mean,
Roughly, yeah.
obviously,
I mean, the
that's
number
what
of
I told her, right, but yeah. Each precinct, plus there's one here for the election results.
Wow, 13,
Well,
12 precincts. One
you've
here,
got 5 wards.
that's in 7 townships. That's 12. You see, all right, count, ready? Better not do that.
6, 7, 8, 9,
Pushing
10,
your luck.
11 townships and 5 wards in Fairfield.
11 townships?
Well, we got 12 townships.
No, we don't.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
There's 12 townships. You're not counting Center Township.
Maybe not.
Well, I'm not counting it. I'm just the other 11. You're counting the 5 wards, the townships.
Yeah.
Warren,
Where is-
Liberty, Cedar, Round Prairie, Lockridge, Buchanan, Locust Grove, Polk, Blackhawk, Penn, and Walnut.
We went off of the invoice from 2019.
Oh, and I was going like Black Hawk Polk, that's,
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So that's
That makes
kind of where I
sense.
came up with that number.
so
Okay.
we are actually saying the same thing. So that doesn't seem like too much money for all those computers.
I guess my question is, since they're only used for elections. I kind of question $2,000 a piece.
well, some of that, like, a few years ago, I think it was like $1,300 for them to install everything.
Okay. I
Part of
didn't
that
know
service, but
Yeah, no, they have to install the software on each of them. Yeah. I didn't think about that. Cause we don't need all of the other. See, these are the things that. You know, the state does this and they change this and they don't think about what it's gonna cost us.
Why would they?
You're right. Oh, you can take that out of general supplemental. And I said, well, wait a minute,
So,
if I raise the levy in general supplemental, how does that lower property taxes? That was a very question I asked our illustrious state senator.
so essentially, we need to know what kind of a deal PCS will give Christie.
Yeah.
yeah, so probably have to budget for fiscal 26, but I'm hoping we can pay half that 26, half in 27.
Yeah, that would be smart.
And our next is in, yeah, so we have. November 26th is the next general election, right? Now, what happens, none of this matters until then, is that right? What I mean is that if you have a special election or
That's what I
anything like
was
that, like for the school bond issue.
Yeah,
or
so our computers are good enough for.
Right, so we'll do the one this fall
Uh-huh.
with the old ones, but by November 26th, the iPad system will be updated. We'll have to use it for the general.
Oh, I can't wait. You didn't sign off on that.
I know.
I bet Abby's just so excited about another general election.
I'll be here before we know it.
Yeah. Okay, so
Right.
do we probably need to have that on the agenda, but what I would like to have is
Yeah.
something definitive from PCS, or maybe somebody from PCS come here and talk to us. If we're gonna spend that kind of money, I'd like to look somebody in the eye.
Matt, he's always entertaining anyway. We might have
That's
some
true.
popcorn.
I don't know if he's still with PCS, but yeah, he was
Pretty sure he
entertaining,
is. Yeah.
so.
Okay. And then I think the only other thing that she didn't have was for fiscal 26, she would probably have a nice face when putting out she was here, but for environmental health, he had budgeted $2,500 for well testing and abandonment. So filling of wells, I think he does get reimbursed, but it looks like he wants to bump it up to about 7,500. So that line there.
Was getting 500 at one time, then it jumped to 6. I think I heard him say it's $700 now.
Oh,
Well, but it doesn't the biggest chunk of that goes to the property owner.
That money
Yeah.
goes to the property owner,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, that's a lot less well abandonment and plugging than what Dan used to do, but
mhm.
because as you can see.
So did you find something Dan really used to do?
Well, all I know is that, for example, in 22, 23, he budgeted 20,500. He brought in 15,200. But he budgeted in 23, 24, 20,500 and brought in 5,866. So, and to date, for 24, 25, I guess that's last year, right? We're in 25, 26. So it's gone down considerably, but you have to pursue that, but that all comes out of that all should come out of grants to counties. But so
Jerry,
is he showing it as, he's saying revenue? He's wanting to increase the revenue?
well, we'll have to increase the expense to 7,500. So we have it to spend and then we'll get some reimbursement.
Well, then he needs to, we need to increase the revenue side as
Yeah.
well. You see what I'm saying? Because it's only expended if you do it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if you're going to increase the expense side, you have to increase the revenue side. Because it should be a wash. It's passed through basically. And the Board of Health gets it, their share of it. It doesn't go to Jerry. goes to the Board of Health.
What do they do with it?
Well, it basically goes back to pay their bills, but what I mean is that it doesn't, it's not money that the sanitarian pockets,
Right.
Uh-huh.
but it has to be, if it's expended on this side, then it has to be recouped on this side, because it's a pass-through.
Mhm.
He has to apply for it or file for it or whatever you want to say, but
Mhm.
Look at it.
but if he's saying that he's going to do more well work,
The one he had.
How could he anticipate that?
well, again, in the past, at least according to Dan's numbers, and the numbers were there. In other words, the revenue, you can show the revenue, even if you were swiping at blue sky with what you projected it was going to be. But what you physically brought in is actual revenue, and he brought in $15,000. I know when Bruce was here, he said, we'll bring in the whole 50,500 on the grants to counties. I don't think Jerry will do that, because I don't think he's that well versed on it yet, but. So if you buy a computer, for example, you could buy that and get that reimbursed through grants to counties.
Okay.
Those are the kind of things that you learn as you're in the system. But it needs to make sure that if they do that, that it's shown on the revenue side as well. Because it's only expended if you plug a well or you close a well. Otherwise, there's no expense.
Yeah, it looks like when we met with him a few weeks ago, it looks like we did bump it up.
Yeah.
His revenue, he didn't have it high enough, it's 50,000, so.
Anything else?
Not on the budget, looking good to
And
start
we're having our hearing when? Next public hearing?
28,
28.
9:00.
So I want to share, now this hasn't passed yet. But it's starting to move through both chambers, the House Study Bill 313 and Senate Study Bill 1208. Senate Ways and Means Chair made it clear that he intends to make little or no charge changes to the TIF portion of the bill. As written, the bill would use state general funds to provide 426 million in school funding, currently paid for with property taxes. How that's gonna work.
It'll go to the.
Cap most property tax levy growth to 2% each year, excluding revenue from new construction, which was the very conversation that Shannon and I had. So on this situation, for example, with the solar panels, that falls under new construction, even though it would be potentially a utility. It would not impact that first year during the construction, the new construction, but the succeeding year. Once it's been constructed, then it will count on that. So and it says right here, cap most property tax levy growth to 2% each year, excluding revenue from new construction. Give each household a $25,000 homestead property tax exemption. I don't know how that's gonna work. Because it says here, phase out the state rollback for residential and commercial properties by 2030. The rollback rate calculated each year limits the amount of property taxes Iowans pay to a percentage of what their property is worth. So, and they're gonna provide a tax credit to Iowans of at least 70 years old who make less than 350% the federal property level, raise an existing veterans property tax exemption from 3,000 to 7,000. I want everybody to understand the way that I'm reading this.
Read that last two sentences again.
Which one? The property tax for veterans?
Is it the property tax or?
Raise an existing
350
veterans
of the-
property tax exemption
Okay,
from 3,000 to 7,000.
okay.
And provide a property tax credit to Iowans at least 70 years old who make less than 350% of the federal poverty.
That's what I was questioning. Okay.
Now, it doesn't give a dollar amount on that credit, mind you. It just says a credit, and it obviously isn't going to apply to me.
Oh, Jen. I'm gonna find out.
Okay. But here's my point. All right, and I'll just use a hypothetical number here. You have $100,000 of taxable
Hey,
valuation.
I'm in a meeting, but I need to know what 350% of the poverty level is. Cause I would say in most cases it's family too. Hang on. Don't hold your breath. I know it's Monday, Jen. Thank you, bye. 93,124.
Well, I would qualify, but I won't get it because I'm.
For a family of two?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's most times it would be family too. It wasn't.
Yeah. But back to so you got $100,000 taxable valuation. Currently, right now, you pay on $47,000 of that. Okay? If they eliminate the rollback and give you a $25,000 exemption, you're gonna pay on $75,000 of that.
Yeah, it's just smoking.
Now,
Shell game.
I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but that's the way that it reads. They're giving you a property tax exemption of $25,000. Now, is that an exemption on your tax? So if you've got $5,000 of property tax, are they exempting the first $25,000 of that? I don't think that's what they're doing. Because you're taking the rollback out of the equation. So the rollback states, as it says here, the rollback for residential commercial property, calculated each year limits the amount of property taxes Iowans pay to a percentage of what their property is worth. In this case, you're paying on 47% of it. So on 100,000, you're paying on 47,000. If you eliminate the rollback and give me a $25,000 exemption, I'm gonna pay on 75,000.
Guess we'll have to wait and see.
Well, maybe Senator Dickey can explain it to me.
Oh, haven't you beat that horse to death?
Not yet, he's still senator. My bad. Just. Josh just sent, he says, unrelated, just got a cold call visit from an Aflac type company. I sent them to the courthouse to look for you. You're welcome.
Hey, there's some duck out here wants to talk to you.
Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to let you know that I have no idea what all this is going to look like, but it's out there raising his ugly head. So
I did hear that Governor, whoever our governor is, did not get her that $100,000 raise.
who?
Our governor,
Oh, they're looking for a raise?
$100,000.
Yeah.
That's what I was told.
Well, yeah, the legislator's gonna get a 20,000.
Up to 44,000. They only,
Here we are, we don't vote for pay raises for us. That's an
they,
example.
they
but
always,
don't.
they still get custom, or they still get travel, they get,
The last I knew, I
lodging.
don't know what it is today as we speak, but the last I knew, about 2 years ago, I guess, was $165 a day per diem.
Yeah,
That's travel, or if you stay there,
yeah.
you know, so if you wanted to travel back and forth every day, you got mileage, you got $165 a day.
Which times would be times 4 because they really are there on Fridays.
Yeah,
Wow,
you know,
we're in the
and
wrong business.
I couldn't envision staying in Des Moines,
I'm sorry, I should have said that.
so,
I would never do that.
yeah. I mean, I would be honored as all get out to be in the chamber, but 5 minutes after I got, I'd be ready to come home. I'm stuck. I remember that's what I told Steve when he decided to run, when Kurt and Steve first ran.
Yep.
And I told Steve, I said, you'll hate it. You get nothing done. You know, and I just, some people I believe are out there because of prestige. Other people really and truly want to get something done. And other people are finding out that unless you've been there for 150 years, you don't mean shit to anybody. So. You don't mean shit to anybody.
It's the truth.
So,
Lee, did you watch the game yesterday?
Who?
The game?
No, did not.
That's why you're.
But I heard, I watched some highlights and UConn just absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, they destroyed Texas. I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Were they
You
expected
guys keep
to?
buying clothes from babies?
Outfitters?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What quality?
Bailey Office Outfitters. So we can buy office clothes.
don't even engage.
What the hell is file negotiation and consulting?
That's Jack.
Oh,
It's final payment.
okay.
Is this the Aflac guy you're talking
Thank you.
about?
Jack has a final payment,
Yeah, we just paid out 2,500, right?
so,
Like paying quarters.
oh,
Last
okay,
quarter.
okay.
Downstone, downstone, downstone. There's another. We're stuck in.
It's a monopoly, just like the cement company. What can you do?
There's a lot of them around here.
What's that?
Downstone.
Yeah.
There's 24 laptops. Our answer.
Oh,
It's 1424.
Hi, can I help you?
Hi, hey, we were just over at the ambulance district, talking with Josh.
Uh-huh,
And, he said that you guys meet on Mondays.
right.
And we're just in town this week, just working the area. I work with Van Buren County.
Okay.
And I just wanted to come say hi and introduce myself to you guys and let you kind of know what I'm doing.
Okay.
But I didn't want to step on any toes either, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so, do you guys have a couple minutes? I just want to come say hi to you guys, introduce myself to you guys.
Yeah, let us finish this up real quick.
Yeah, that's fine. So, do you want us to wait outside?
No,
or-
you're.
Oh, okay, okay,
Public meeting.
yeah.
24 computers
Yeah,
per Chris.
well, we know why we, pay Vanessa Willman attorney fees.
District court.
Yeah. She representing somebody that we pay for. She's the attorney for the hospital. She works for Boss, Kuiken and Gookin, Cochran and Rice Krispies and Corn Flakes and whoever else is
You
in the
know,
office now.
We shouldn't be paying her. Well, I know the 3 lawyers from the 3 legs of the milk stool got together to work out a plan, I guess. But we shouldn't be, that's the only thing I know. I can't imagine what else there is. How much was it for?
$1,020.16.
Oh,
Probably 1 hour's worth of work.
or half.
Yeah. Just
So if we have an,
Well, we can look at the bill.
have an inmate, do we have to pay for their legal fees?
Well, I can't believe she would be a public defender. I'm not saying she couldn't be,
Uh-huh.
but
Goodness me.
it used to be.
You have to waste basket if you're gonna sneeze.
No, don't say that or I'll sneeze. Trying to will it not to work. So where do you guys work for?
Family Heritage. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this before. But I've been working with Van Buren County for a couple of years now and just working with their courthouse over there. I work with a lot of ambulance districts, from where I'm at, where I live at and stuff, and, we're stopping over to say hi.
You're looking a little outside.
Yeah.
Abby, what are you doing here?
Working.
Yeah. He's looking, trying to find us out. If, excuse me.
No, you're good. Yeah, you're good.
I think Will would be close to Buffalo, right?
They're not in order.
I'll let him go away from the fridge on that, Abby. How many years and he finally figured that? Had to be told.
She's probably been here all morning, just waiting for me to get to this point.
I was.
And obviously, okay, well, I won't laugh at you. Cause you look like you're in discomfort. And you weren't tornado chasing, whatever they call that. She is a storm chaser.
Are you a storm chaser?
No.
Oh, okay,
Only,
okay.
only.
She's a filmer, she felt. She's a producer.
Okay, okay. So, a lot of that around here, so no, for sure.
Yeah,
And so I gotta confess, I'm from Missouri, so that's my confession for you guys. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Missouri, but I'm from Springfield.
Oh, yeah.
And so, Northwest Missouri State, which is a college up near Maryville,
I got a
Missouri.
son there's a professor,
Awesome. What's your son's name?
Travis Nimmitt.
What does he teach? Cause that sounds
I don't know,
familiar.
all I know is the last I knew, he was in English.
He was in English and stuff.
Never had a major in English, but
That's what he taught.
that's what he's teaching.
And so I got business management there. That was my degree and went there all 4 years, met my wife.
So
And then,
he's,
yeah.
he got his bachelor's in journalism and a master's in history and then a master's in administration, and then somehow or another he got a doctorate. And
Okay.
he just spent his life in school.
That's awesome. Okay. That's super cool and stuff too.
He
So,
ran what, I don't know what you call it, the Methodist home or whatever there.
yeah.
He ran that.
Okay. Wow. How long has he been over there then for? Just over in Maryville?
Oh, 100 years. Well, honestly, with the exception of a very short stint in Branson, Missouri and here,
Yeah.
he's been there since he graduated from high school. And he's was born in 76, so he'd be 49 years old.
Wow. Okay.
So
Okay.
roughly almost 30 years.
Wow. Yeah, I was
In
there.
Maryville.
I was there for 10 years. Literally
Yeah.
graduated and stayed and had my family. I have 2 kids. I got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
There's a town not too far from there, Hills or Hill. There's a school district up there. He was K through 12 principal there, plus he coached girls' high school softball.
What was the town? Do you remember?
Hill something, I think.
There's Mound City, there's,
It's really
Raven.
only just not too terribly many miles from.
I know, and I lived there for 10 years, so I should know this. I can't think of it at all right now, but he's the principal there.
Yeah.
Nice, okay.
Guardianship.
For which one of us?
Let's see,
I don't know that you can say it.
Joe Ledger.
I needed it.
I mean, it's public information, but I don't know the name of it.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Guardianship.
So I said, I was-
No, you're all good and everything too, so. So yeah, I work with Van Buren, I work with Decatur County down in Leon as well too, and then Fremont, which is kind of on the other side of the state, a little bit in the southwest region and stuff as well, and a few others. And I do family heritage, I do supplemental products for the courthouses. A lot of them have stuff already. I don't know what you guys have. That's what I was stopping by just to check and see what you guys currently participate in when it comes to the supplemental side. Cause I know you guys have health insurance and all that stuff taken care of, but what do you guys do for supplemental coverage purposes? Anything at all? Okay,
Over the years, we've looked at different things.
Okay.
But generally speaking, I guess you'd say is that we Well, I don't know, when you talk about supplemental, I mean, we have,
Got vision and stuff, which is
Right.
good to have, and I think a lot of people participate in it.
we have what's called a RAP plan.
Okay,
Do we still have a RAP?
awesome,
Flex, do we still have Flex?
sweet, like a flex spending account, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's awesome,
Yeah.
okay. So,
But beyond that, as far as, anything else, you know, like, I can't think of thing, like Aflac or
Like that.
of that nature, we've been approached in years before, but we've always left it up to the individual
okay.
employee as to what they want to do.
So kind of where I come into play a little bit, is, yeah, Aflac is huge. A lot of people know about them and things like that. We do the cancer, the heart attack, stroke, the accidents and injuries. I feel like these plans have become more popular over the years, just because, you know, somebody's missing time out of work for 6 to 12 months or whatever time. Things start to get tight, things start to get a little difficult, and who can't use a little extra help, right? A couple of reasons why I'm partnered with a few courthouses here in Iowa, and where I'm from, Missouri, I work with like 20 courthouses. So it's just something I've worked really well with. But the reason why somebody have partnered with me is the fact is I don't do payroll. So everything I do is individualized. Like you just said, there's actually no extra paperwork for you guys. It just goes through your employees and they just pay for it on their own. And it goes with them if they retire, if they leave, whatever, but there's no extra work for you guys personally. Okay, and I think that's a huge deal. The other thing that's really unique about it is that all of our coverages are 100% refundable. So if an employee keeps it for a certain period of time and say they never need to use the product at all, they actually get 100% of their premiums back that they paid in. And so as a company, that's kind of our claim to fame. We don't do any advertisement. We don't do any of that stuff. A lot of the time, the people that spend money on advertisement, what we actually use that for is actually returning their premium back and paying out claims, which is cool. And I was going to pull up a photo, but this is a lady just recently, like 2 to 3 weeks ago. She lives in Kellerton, Iowa. And she had our cancer plan for 20 years. And she didn't use it at all and stayed healthy and didn't need it. And we got to return a check back to her for around 14 grand because that's what she put into it. So that kind of also helps people participate in our program because again, they're not wasting any money with us. It's more like a savings account for them and their families, but they have that peace of mind that if something happens, then we're going to be paying them thousands of dollars to get through their situation and just help them out. The other thing is customer service. I'm big with that. I've been doing this for 7 years now. And so a lot of the courthouses I work with, I go back and just service and take care of their people year after year. And it's not something where you guys say you work with me, you wouldn't see me ever again. You know how that goes sometimes with insurance. You sign up and they're like, where did my agent go? You know, somebody different comes back. You won't really get that with me at all. I always come back. I always take care of people. But the reason why we were stopping by is the ambulance district. I know that you guys, they work with you guys, which I'm not used to seeing that with other counties or other ambulance districts at all. So it's kind of unique. But I know with them, they see stuff all the time with what they do, cancer, heart issues, accidents. I mean, they're at risk for some of those things already with the line of work they're in. We were just wanting to see if we could work with them potentially, since it's a non-payroll deal and potentially protect some of their people on it. And then if you guys want to talk about us working with the courthouse, we can explore that too. But I really was coming over because we just talked to Josh, and even though this doesn't really go through the courthouse necessarily, he still wanted us to check with you. Because that's just respectful too, because you know what I mean, you guys are the ones, but yeah.
I mean, you know, if you have material and, you know, informational stuff that you want to provide and the employee want to take a look at it, far be it from us to tell the employee they can't.
Okay, okay.
You know, if
So-
they want to look at it, that's entirely up to them.
Okay, like I said, we're here the week. I just wanted to get your guys' permission before we start stepping on those.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure if we're gonna work with them, that it's okay with you guys in
I
a
mean,
sense.
if it's not going through our payroll, it's not part of our budget, you know, it's an individual situation, then you know, if they, I'm not equating the two, but don't misunderstand.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell them where to go buy car insurance.
No, yeah, exactly, and stuff too. So I love taking care of people. I've seen what my products have done for some of my clients and things like that. And I think some people at the ambulance district would maybe take advantage of this and get themselves protected on it, and hopefully they never need it, but you know how that goes.
Yeah, if our director of operations is comfortable,
Okay,
I'm gonna leave it up to him
okay,
as far as that part of it goes.
okay, okay.
And, so if you talk to
Okay.
Josh and he says, yeah, you can talk to the
No
people
biggies.
or whatever, or, you probably need to contact them outside of work,
Yeah.
what.
Yeah, however we work that out, you know, and things like that too. Okay. Okay.
So, cause there are some, I mean, we've got walls and stuff up there, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem, but,
Okay.
there is a kitchen area, but whatever, however if he's interested, thinks he's got employees interested, that's up to them.
Okay. Okay. Have you guys, I know you guys have explored it in the past for the courthouse. We can talk about this another time, of course, too, and I can send information to you guys. What do you guys think about the non-payroll potentially offering something like this to your people? I know you said it's kind of up to them too, but you
I
said that a
mean,
little
yeah,
bit
and
earlier.
it's a situation where I don't know. You know, you could put, information out there on the table, you could, information on the bulletin board. Someplace where it might be conspicuous or
Okay.
whatever,
What I did with Van Buren, and this is up to the courthouse, you guys don't have to work with me like this at all, every courthouse is different. What I do with them and what I do with Decatur County, down south. I find a day, I come in, I usually send out a little memo that kind of goes out to all the employees, letting them know I'm gonna be here. And then I kind of just float around to each office, introduce myself, bring them a donut, and kind of just visit with the people that might be interested in it. And I just follow with those people, and then whoever's not, they don't have to talk to me, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I'm just here to serve people that are interested in what I got, but that's kind of what I do with them, just to give you an idea,
yeah,
just.
no, it's, as a general rule,
Yeah.
I guess what I would say is that, that, I don't wanna say this, that borders real close to solicitation.
Okay, I feel you, yeah.
Does that make sense what I'm saying? But,
Right.
if you wanna provide material,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not sure that. Wanna open, and it's not.
No, that's,
You guys.
that's okay, no.
Then somebody else wants.
We have bulletin boards at the bottom of the steps, both sides, just
Yeah.
put something up there.
Yeah,
If you're not about that.
that's fine, then, yeah,
And they can get a hold of you. I
Yeah.
suppose.
I'm just afraid if we open that door, then.
more people are gonna come
Well,
flooding
yeah.
in.
Yeah, different types of products, red rubber galoshes or. whatever.
You just never know at all by
Right.
any means, so yeah,
And,
yeah,
and I don't know, I do know to some extent, but I don't always know what the busy time is for the auditor or the recorder.
what the
And,
guy,
so I just would, like I say, like she said, if you want to leave information board. Maybe some information,
yeah,
business cards or whatever out on that's fine.
that's okay, okay, cool. Yeah, I can email you, I can email like a little memo thing that I usually pass out. It kind of gives you kind of a one-page description about who we are and kind of what we do and things like that. And just get you guys have access to that and get some business cards here too. And then if anybody's interested, great, I'll meet with them one-on-one and kind of show them what I have. If nobody's interested, no big deal, you know what I mean? So.
No, and that's, like I say, it's individually, and I understand, you're kind of a collective audience, but that's exactly also part of the reason that I don't want our employees to feel like they're, a captive audience, so.
Yeah, I understand that,
So.
and stuff as well too, so, no, thank you, and I didn't even catch any of you guys' names, so,
Leave it.
okay, Lee, and then,
I'll get up.
okay.
I sat here long enough.
Yes,
I'm Joe Ledger.
nice to meet you, everything too, and then,
My name is Susie.
okay,
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you too, and then what's your
I'm
name?
Great, young author.
Nice to meet you and everything too. Thank you, okay.
Yeah, no problem.
But yeah, we'll go back and talk to Josh, because that's really what we're coming over for, because I really do think our products would be really good for them out there. And just we're here for the week work. And I moved to Iowa just recently. I don't know if I said that earlier, but my wife's family lives in Ankeny. She's a triplet. So her sisters
really?
live in Waukee and Polk City.
Ah,
And so we lived in Maryville for so long, but we got 2 kids. We
Yeah.
just wanted some extra help, and it's already been awesome and stuff too, having them all around. So we're kind of new to the area,
Hey.
new to Iowa at least
Yeah.
I am. But it's pretty fun so far though. So nice area over there.
well, we got better roads. Oop, did I say that?
Oh, no, you're not lying, and everything too as well. That's one thing I can say about Iowa. You guys for sure got better roads.
I couldn't resist that.
I don't know where all our money goes.
Well, but they got more paved roads.
Yeah, yeah,
They put this stuff
And
on.
they're this wide.
Yeah, they are. They're only this wide. You're
that's
right.
true too.
But you can
That's true
still
too.
meet somebody and pass.
Well, I try not to go down there.
Well, I spent a lot of time in Missouri.
Yeah, we're at, you usually spend time kind of,
Oh, actually, I got, well, right now he's not living down there, but I have
oh, thank you.
a son and a daughter that live in Memphis, Missouri.
Yes, yeah, kind of, that's on, like, that's the east side, northeast,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
and stuff as well, so.
Yeah, right south of Milton.
Yeah.
15 miles.
Yep.
And, but no, I like going down through Missouri. There's a state park south of Farmington, Iowa, on
Okay.
Highway 81. And
Okay.
that is, the Missouri State Park. It's called, I don't know whether it's Athens or Athens, but it's spelled like Athens, Greece.
Pretty good.
The site of a Civil War battle.
Oh, yeah,
And
okay.
it's a nice little state park. So we.
There's a lot of that history in Missouri. It's really,
Yeah.
that's the one thing I can say, Missouri's got quite a bit of history.
There's an old mill and stuff there, and if you go down to look at the mill, at the Des Moines River's right there,
Okay,
and on the other side of the Des Moines River is Croton. So if
Okay.
you come out of Farmington and follow the river road, it brings you to Croton, and you can look across the river and see.
pretty good sized camping ground too, like,
Yeah, it's not bad, and the sites, most of the sites are secluded one from another.
sweet, okay.
And so,
Yeah, never been.
it's quite a little,
go.
and I think it's every third
South
year,
of Farmington,
they have a.
go up the hill where the
reenactment.
gas station.
Okay.
Or they used to anyway.
It goes a little further.
And,
I think it's after. you
it was
get
state sanctioned at the time, so I don't know
It's
whether
the outhouse thing, I think.
they still do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So they get a whole bunch of volunteers too,
Yeah.
right? And so,
Yeah.
oh, those are, okay, that's pretty cool.
Flat powder groups come in and they,
Yeah,
I
you know,
don't.
so it's quite the deal.
Not the
well, me and my
outhouse.
family are, yeah, we're going camping this summer, for the first time ever. So
Yeah.
we're gonna see how that goes with 2 littles.
Yeah.
But we're looking for places to kind of go and kind of just hang out for a weekend.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
really a nice place, but it is a narrow road getting to it. It
Is
is
it?
what I
Okay,
call semi-paved.
okay, okay.
But when you come down Highway 81, you're on Highway 2,
Mm-hmm,
going into Farmington. Before you actually get into Farmington, if you cross the bridge, you went too far. Turn right and go south, and it's about 6 miles south,
okay,
and then about 4 miles off the highway.
okay, sweet, sweet.
So,
Thank you.
yep,
All right, well, you guys have a good week and we'll be in touch. I'll email you some of the stuff over.
Okay.
Maybe to get out and just, post on the, I don't know if I need to bring and post it myself or if you guys print it out, and just put it on the book. What would work for you guys?
yeah, I can post it if you send it.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. So, yeah, thank you.
All right,
All right,
I
thanks,
appreciate
guys.
it.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.
okay.
Motion to adjourn. No, we gotta approve claims first.
Oh, that's right, we didn't do that, did we? Okay, Joe, go ahead.
Move to approve claims in amount of $173,133.56.
Well, you can read her writing, can't you?
Yes, you can. It's very,
We're gonna have to change that. Second. All those in favor? Motion to adjourn?
Oh, so soon?
second.
Discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Can I throw?
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.